You don't survive Nicolo Amato by being sweet. When he claims me in public to protect our heir, he paints a target on my back, and the city learns what happens when a weakness becomes a queen. This is part 2 of My Sister Sent Me to the Wrong Room. The story continues. Let's begin. The first time Nicolo says my name that day, it sounds like a sentence. Silk slides over my skin. Too smooth, too expensive, too final, as the tailor's hands vanish the moment the door opens. The room empties on command. Not asked, not requested, ordered. Nicolo stands by the window with the city spread beneath him like a map he owns. Suit jacket on, cufflinks set. No tie adjustment because he doesn't fidget. He doesn't perform nervousness. He performs inevitability. 2 guards at the door. 2 more in the corridor. A man at the far wall with an earpiece and a face that has forgotten how to be surprised. I look down at myself. Black silk. A cut that says seen, not comfortable. My throat suddenly feels too exposed, like the fabric is a hand. I look like a statement, I say. My voice comes out sharp because softness would be surrender. Nicolo doesn't turn. You are. I take a step, my heels clicking once, loud in the quiet like a dare. I'm not a billboard. Now he pivots, slow, controlled. Eyes the color of storm glass and just as merciless. Secrecy makes you huntable, he says. He doesn't elaborate. He never does when he thinks the truth should be enough. My jaw tightens. So you're putting me under lights. I'm putting you behind consequences. Behind your name, I snap. His gaze flicks, one precise sweep over me, not hunger, not admiration. Assessment, placement. Like he's measuring how much of me the world will be allowed to touch. Behind my house, he corrects, and my reach. My breath catches on the possessive. Not because it's new, because it's public. Because it makes my body feel the same thing my mind hates. Safer. I hate that. I step closer until I can smell his cologne, clean, cold, expensive restraint. I'm not your property. His mouth doesn't change, but the air does, like the room leans toward him. Today, he says, you will let them think you are. I laugh once, bitter. So they'll stop looking at me like prey? So they'll start looking at you like a trigger. His voice drops, quiet enough that it feels like a hand around my wrist. Predators don't bite what bites back. Easy for you, I say. You are the bite. He comes closer. Not dramatic, efficient. He closes the distance until my world is suit fabric and heat and that calm, brutal attention. Beatrice. My name is a warning now, an anchor. You want to survive this? Stop confusing optics for weakness. The word this lands like a door slamming somewhere far away. I swallow. My hand lifts without permission toward my midsection, an instinct I haven't forgiven myself for yet. I force it back down. I refuse to be readable. I want to live, I say. The honesty coming out like a blade, without disappearing. His eyes hold mine. He doesn't promise. He doesn't soothe. This is how you don't disappear, he says. You stand where everyone can see you, at my side. There it is again. At my side. Not behind, not hidden, but still, contained. I inhale and taste the lie the silk is telling, that beauty is safety. A knock at the door, one rap, respectful, fear dressed as protocol. They're ready, the guard says. Nicolo doesn't look away from me. We're ready. I follow him out because refusal here isn't freedom. It's suicide with pride attached. The car is armored. The route is pre-cut. The city outside the tinted windows looks ordinary. People walking, lights changing, lives ignorant of how quickly they can be rewritten. Nicolo sits beside me without touching me, which somehow makes his control worse. Like he doesn't need contact to own the space between us. You planned this fast, I say. I planned it already, he replies. Of course he did. I stare at the hard line of his profile. And you didn't think to mention that I'd be paraded? He turns his head just enough to meet my eyes. I mentioned it now. Nicolo, no, he cuts in. A one-word verdict. You don't argue in the car. My temper flares hot. I'm not a purse. A flicker, a micro crack in the armor. Not amusement. Recognition. He leans closer, voice for me alone. Stay at my side. I lean in too, refusing to be the only one cornered. And if I don't, his tone doesn't rise. It drops. Then I put you there. My pulse hits my throat. I hate him for how calm he is. I hate myself for how my body responds to the calm like it's shelter. The car stops. Doors open. The world becomes a corridor of suits, earpieces, and scanning eyes. A building rises ahead, stone and glass and old money pretending it isn't afraid. Cameras are kept outside by rules that exist only because men like Nicolo allow them to exist. Inside, The air is perfume and cigar smoke and power held in polite hands. I step into the room and the room notices. Not in one wave, in slices, in glances that test, then adjust, in pupils that tighten, in mouths that stop mid-sentence. Nicolo places his hand at my lower back. Not gentle, not romantic, a pressure point, a claim, a warning to the room that my body is not available for speculation, that touching me, verbally or otherwise, will be treated like a declaration of war. My skin burns beneath his palm. I keep my posture tall anyway, chin level, eyes steady. The first man we pass looks at me like he's trying to calculate cost. Then his gaze flicks to Nicolo's hand. He looks away, like he's seen a blade. I feel it happen, subtle but real. The room reorders itself around us. Allies offer nods that don't reach the eyes. Respect that is really fear with manners. Men who would stare decide they prefer breathing. Women watch without expression, cataloging me like a new piece on a board that just became dangerous. Whispers slip through the room like thin smoke. Amato finally has a weakness, someone murmurs. A man in a gray suit, too comfortable to be a friend. I hear it anyway. My spine goes cold. Nicolo hears it too. He doesn't react with a look, he reacts with placement. His hand shifts half an inch, pressing me closer to his side, reducing my world to the width of his body. Containment as comfort. I want to shove him off. I don't. We stop near a table set with crystal and small sharp smiles, a meeting disguised as an event. A transaction dressed as civility. A man approaches, older, silver at the temples, eyes like a ledger. He gives Nicolo a smile that is mostly teeth. Amato, he says, and it's both greeting and measurement. Nicolo gives him nothing back. Rossi. Rossi's eyes drift toward me. Not openly. Just enough to be insult. And this is... My throat tightens. I hate being introduced like an accessory. Nicolo answers without looking away from Rossi. Protected. One word. A wall. Rossi's smile thins. Congratulations. It isn't a celebration, Nicolo says. I feel the weight of that. He isn't claiming me for romance. He's claiming me like a fortress claims a gate. Rossi's gaze flicks again to Nicolo's hand. He nods once, almost imperceptible, and steps back as though a boundary has been drawn on the floor and he isn't interested in testing it. Predators retreat. Not all of them, but enough that my lungs loosen. The safety hits me like a drug I didn't consent to take. My heartbeat, which had been sprinting, steadies into something colder, something present. I hate that too. Nicolo leans down slightly, his breath barely touching my ear. You feel it. I keep my smile polite for the watching room. My voice stays low and lethal for him. I feel you branding me. His hand doesn't move. I'm shielding you. With your name, I whisper. With my consequence, he corrects. My nails dig crescents into my palm. I force them to relax. I force my face into control. If I shatter, the room will eat it. A woman across the room watches me like she's studying a fracture line in glass. I meet her stare without blinking. She looks away first. My stomach turns, not with fear, but with a new awareness. I can do this, not because I'm safe, because I'm learning how to be dangerous without moving at all. We leave before the room can pretend it wasn't changed by our entrance. Nicolo doesn't linger. Lingering is invitation. The elevator in his building is silent, except for the soft whir of ascent and the faint click of my breathing trying to stay even. When the doors open, Nicolo guides me out with the same hand at my back. I turn in the corridor, finally letting the mask crack just enough to show teeth. You didn't ask me. Nicolo stops. Looks at me as if the concept of asking is a luxury he's never purchased. No, he says. I decided. And what if your decision gets me killed? My voice sharpens on the last word, not because I'm melodramatic, because I'm practical. His eyes go darker. Then I bury the world that did it. It should terrify me. It does. It also does something worse. It steadies me. I hate myself for that steadiness. Nicolo opens the door. The apartment beyond is quiet, fortified, controlled, his version of safety. I step inside and the door clicks shut behind us like a final statement. For a moment I stand there, silk still on my skin, the weight of the room still in my bones. Then my phone vibrates. Once, twice, 3 times, an urgent stutter. I pull it out, the screen bright and harsh in the dim hall. Notifications stack like knives. A photo. Me. Leaving the building. Nicolo beside me, his hand at my back. My face turned slightly toward the camera at exactly the wrong angle, clear enough to recognize, soft enough to look human. A caption stamped beneath it, already shared, already spreading. Amato's weakness. My stomach drops so hard it feels like falling. My fingers go cold around the phone. Nicolo? He's at my side before I finish the syllable, gaze on the screen, jaw tightening once, then releasing into something that isn't anger. It's calculation turning lethal. He takes the phone from me with a calm that feels like a blade sliding free. Wrong hands, he says. Not a guess. A diagnosis. My breath comes shallow. I told you. No. His voice is quiet, absolute. He looks at me and the room seems to shrink around that look. You didn't tell me. The world did. I swallow, my throat burning. So what now? His thumb taps once, sending the image to someone, an order disguised as a message. Then he meets my eyes. This, he says, is why secrecy gets you killed. The phone vibrates again in his hand, and somewhere beyond his walls, someone smiles at the word weakness like it tastes good. Chapter 2. The first new guard appears outside my bedroom like a stain that won't scrub out. I register him the way you register a locked door, not by looking, but by the way the air changes when you move toward it. Yesterday there had been one man at the end of the hall. Today there are two. Black suits, no conversation, earpieces like leashes, and downstairs, I can hear it, boots that weren't there before. The soft shift of furniture, the scrape of metal being installed where metal wasn't necessary. The apartment still smells like expensive restraint and polished stone, but it breathes different, tighter. Like the walls learned to flinch. Nicolo is on a call at the kitchen island, his voice low enough to be a knife. He doesn't look at me when he speaks because he doesn't have to. The room is already oriented around him. Private clinic, he says into the phone. No waiting room. No signage. I want the doctor screamed twice. A pause. His fingers tap once against the marble. Not impatience. Calculation. No, she doesn't take the street entrance. He ends the call and lifts his eyes to me. You're not going anywhere alone, he says. My hands curl into fists before I can stop them. My nails bite crescents into my palms, tiny pain, proof I still own my body. I'm in your building, I say. In your fortress. What do you think is going to happen, Nicolo? A sniper through the fridge. His jaw tightens once. Releases. He doesn't raise his voice. It would be a waste. You're already a headline, he says. Headlines invite hands. I step closer. I refuse to speak from across the room like a child begging a parent. Then stop treating me like luggage you can lock in a vault. His gaze flicks, brief, sharp, toward my stomach. Not romantic, not tender. A soldier checking the location of the most vulnerable point on the field. It makes heat crawl up my spine anyway. I hate that too. He turns away, opens a drawer, pulls out a small black device, and sets it on the counter like, evidence. This is your new phone, encrypted. I stare at it. I have a phone. You have a liability. I laugh once, thin, vicious. And I suppose I have a new life too. Routes, rules, a schedule. Yes, the bluntness hits harder than an argument because there's no space for negotiation inside it. No pretended softness, just ownership disguised as safety. My throat burns. I won't be a womb behind bulletproof glass. Silence. Not empty. Loaded. Nicolo keeps his eyes on me as if I'm something sharp he respects and something fragile he fears at the same time. You won't be a corpse either, he says. My pulse trips. The word corpse is too real in his mouth, too familiar. I force myself to breathe slower. You're afraid. He doesn't deny it. He just makes it smaller by making it useful. I'm prepared, he corrects. That's fear with a suit on. His stare hardens. Eat. I blink. What? Eat, he repeats. A one-line verdict. Then we leave. The command lands wrong, like a hand around my throat. I move, not toward the table but toward the door. The two guards outside straighten, blocking the hallway without stepping into it. They don't touch me. They don't have to. Their bodies are the message. My anger sparks hot, bright. Oxygen. Life. Move, I say. Neither guard answers. They look past me to the kitchen, waiting for the only voice that matters. I turn and fix my eyes on Nicolo over their shoulders. Tell them to move. Nicolo doesn't move from the island. He watches me like he's watching a fuse burn. You're not walking out to prove a point, he says. I'm walking out because I'm not disappearing. I shoot back, my voice fast with adrenaline. I will not disappear because you're afraid. The guards remain still. I walk anyway. I step close enough that one man has to shift his stance, and I can smell his aftershave and the quiet tension in his muscles. You're going to put your hands on me? I ask, low and lethal. In his house? The guard's eyes flicker one instant of uncertainty. then blankness returning like a mask. Behind them, Nicolo finally speaks. "Let her pass," he says. The guard moves immediately. I walk through the gap like a blade sliding between ribs. I don't run. I won't give them the satisfaction of panic. I take each step deliberately, claiming the hallway with my spine. I make it to the living room. And stop, because the living room isn't mine anymore. A second camera sits in the corner where there wasn't one yesterday. The curtains are heavier. The balcony door has a new latch. The glass looks the same but feels thicker, like it learned how to resist. It's a cage designed by someone who thinks comfort is the same as consent. My breath comes shallow. I press a palm to my stomach without thinking, an instinct I hate because it makes me readable. I drop my hand. Then I see it, a lamp on the side table, bronze base, white shade, normal enough to be invisible. Except the cord is wrong. It's been disturbed, twisted, reseated, too neat in the way men make mistakes when they believe no one will notice. I go still, not afraid, awake. I cross the room and turn the lampshade with careful fingers, as if I'm handling a sleeping animal. The inside seam has a tiny incision. Clean. Professional. Someone's blade was sharp. My stomach turns. I reach into the seam and feel plastic, a hard edge. Cold. I pull it free. A small black disc with a pinhole eye, a wire threaded down into the base. A listening device. The air leaves my lungs in a slow, controlled exhale because screaming would be a gift. "Someone's in here," I say. My voice is quiet. That's the difference between a frightened girl and a woman who understands the rules. Behind me, footsteps. Nicolo. No rush, no wasted motion. When he moves fast, people die. When he moves like this, the entire world is being recalculated. He takes the device from my hand, not gently, not rough, like a surgeon removing something rotten. He turns it over once, sees what he needs. His jaw tightens, releases. He doesn't swear, he doesn't flinch, he becomes colder. I watch him and realize something I don't want to know. He isn't just angry. He's scared. Not of the device, of what it means. Nicolo lifts his phone and makes one call. One ring. "Lock it," he says, a pause. His eyes never leave me. No one leaves until I know. He ends the call, then lifts his gaze to the ceiling as if he can see through floors, through walls, through the skin of the building to the people inside it. The apartment shifts, doors thud in the distance. A quiet rush of footsteps, radios murmuring. The house wakes up like a predator. My spine prickles. Nicolo, he steps close enough that I can smell him again, cold, clean, lethal, calm. He doesn't touch me at first, he just takes up space. Containment as comfort, whether I want it or not. His eyes drop briefly to my stomach again, then rise to my face. "Do you understand now?" He asks. My throat tightens. "I understand that you're turning my life into a vault. I'm turning it into something that stays intact." I shake my head, anger surging again, because anger is easier than fear. "By erasing me," his voice goes quieter. "By keeping you breathing." I hold his stare, refusing to look down, refusing to shrink. "Who put that there?" I demand. Nicolo doesn't answer the question yet. He answers the reality. His gaze cuts to the doorway, toward the corridor where staff move and stop on command. His voice doesn't rise. It drops into something that makes the hair on my arms lift. "Someone is already in our house," he says, and the sentence lands like a lock clicking shut. Chapter 3. The courier arrives under Nicolo's roof like a confession dragged in by the throat. He's not in a uniform, not carrying a branded envelope. He's dressed in plain gray, hands empty, his face too calm for a man walking into a predator's den, until the elevator opens and he sees the guards. Then his calm turns into obedience. I watch from the shadow of the living room doorway, barefoot on cold stone, my silk robe tied too tight because I've been trying to feel contained by something I control. The apartment is still locked down, doors monitored, staff held, air thick with the quiet machinery of a hunt. Nicolo stands near the island, still as a blade laid flat. The courier stops 3 paces away and lowers his gaze. He produces the package from inside his jacket like it's been under his ribs the entire ride up. A small box. Black. Sealed with wax so dark it's almost purple. The scent hits first, hot, sweet, old, like churches, like blood made polite. My stomach tightens. Nicolo doesn't reach for it immediately. He looks at the man instead. "Who sent you?" he says. Not a question, an expectation. The courier swallows. "No name." Nicolo steps closer, slow enough to be merciful, close enough that the courier's breath stutters. "Try again," Nicolo says. The courier's voice thins. an arrangement through the old channels. I feel my skin prickle. Old channels, blood channels, the kind of message you can't forward, can't trace, didn't arrive. Nicolo takes the box. He doesn't thank the courier. He doesn't dismiss him kindly. He nods once toward the door. The guards escort the man out. The door closes. Silence drops like a lid. I step forward. You're going to open it. Nicolo sets the box on the counter. He looks at it like it's a live thing. Yes. And you're going to tell me what it says, I add, because I'm done being kept in the dark like darkness is protection. His eyes lift to mine. A pause. Weaponize, then stand there. My jaw tightens. I'm not Beatrice. My name, used like a hand on the back of my neck, not gentle, anchoring, warning. I hold his stare until my pulse steadies enough to make a choice I can live with. I move, one step only, until I'm not behind him, not in his arms, not safe in the shadow of his authority. I stand beside the counter, not at his side, beside the threat. Nicolo cuts the wax with a small knife. One clean slice, no hesitation. The seal breaks with a soft crack like bone. Inside, paper, thick, crisp, expensive, civilization as camouflage. He slides the letter out and unfolds it once. I lean in despite myself and catch the first line. The ink is dark and careful, as if it believes manners can make sins holy. Tradition requires the heir. My mouth goes dry. Nicolo reads without moving his lips, his eyes scanning with the speed of a man who has learned to ingest danger fast. I read over his shoulder anyway, because I'm not a passenger, and because my fear needs facts. Balance has been disturbed. Debts remain unpaid. What was taken must be returned to the proper hands. The mother will be preserved. The line will be protected. Peace is possible. My skin crawls at the word preserved, like I'm meat, like I'm a vessel. My breath comes too fast. I force it down into something colder. So this is, I swallow, a negotiation. Nicolo folds the letter with surgical calm. It's a claim. He turns the paper so I can see what sits at the bottom. A symbol pressed into the page with a faint embossed crest. No name written because it doesn't need one. A ring of thorns around a crown. I frown. What is that? The air changes when he answers. The temperature feels like it drops. The Ordine della Corona, Nicolo says. The name lands heavy. Old world Italian. Not a gang. Not a rival crew. An institution. I hear it in the way his voice tightens without raising. In the way the muscles in his jaw set like stone. They're real, I whisper, and hate that it sounds like I'm asking. Nicolo doesn't waste words on reassurance. Yes. What do they want? He looks at the letter again as if it's trying to crawl across the counter. They want what they think is owed, he says. Tradition. Balance. Debts. My hands curl into fists, meaning me, meaning the child. I force myself to say it, meaning the heir. Nicolo doesn't soften the truth by dressing it. They breed heirs like currency, he says. The words are quiet. They're worse than shouting. I feel a chill track down my spine. Breed. His eyes flick to my stomach. Brief. Controlled. Like he's checking a target he can't afford to lose. Not tenderness. Terror with discipline. They trade marriages the way men trade ports, he continues. They don't kill what they can own. My throat tightens, rage rising because rage is easier than the image forming in my mind. I press a palm to my belly without permission. Protective, furious. My voice cracks on the edge of disgust. I force it steady. A womb with a price. Nicolo watches my hand for half a second too long, then looks back to my face. Don't say it like that, he says. It's the closest he gets to gentleness. A command meant to keep me intact. I laugh once, sharp as broken glass. What should I say? A miracle? A blessing? My eyes burn. They wrote preserved like I'm a jar on a shelf. Nicolo reaches into the box again. There's more. A small black drive taped beneath the inner lid. Neat. Clinical. Like they expect him to comply. He pulls it free and slots it into a tablet without asking anyone's permission, because the entire world under this roof is his to weaponize. The screen lights. A video begins. No music, no dramatic introduction. Just a man's voice, calm and polished, speaking as if he's reading a toast. Amato, the voice says, we acknowledge your strength. We respect your hold on the city. My stomach turns, respect as a knife. We also acknowledge, the voice continues, that strength without tradition becomes chaos. Balance requires correction. A pause, a deliberate one. The air belongs to the line. My hand tightens over my belly until my knuckles pale. The voice remains courteous, which makes it monstrous. The mother will be protected. She will be given peace. She will be given legacy. My teeth grind. Legacy, I whisper. That's what they call a cage. Nicolo doesn't answer me. His eyes are fixed on the screen, his face unreadable, but his stillness has changed. It's not calm. It's restraint, and now, the voice says, terms. I lean closer despite myself, as if I can intimidate the screen. We will protect her, the voice says, if she leaves you. The words punch the air out of the room. For one beat, I can't breathe. Then anger floods in, hot and fast, filling the vacuum. On the screen, the voice continues, polite as poison. Choose peace, choose legacy. Deliver the mother to the proper hands, and balance will be restored. My vision narrows. I turn to Nicolo, expecting, I don't know what I expect, rage, violence, a shattered tablet. Instead, he is perfectly still, and that stillness is worse because it means his mind is already moving, already killing possibilities, already building a war. I force the words out through clenched teeth. They're not offering to kill you. No, Nicolo says. He reaches out and stops the video with one tap, like he's silencing a fly. His gaze locks on mine. They're offering to replace me. My stomach twists. The apartment feels smaller, like the walls are listening even now. I look down at my own hand on my belly and realize something cold and undeniable. This isn't about love. This is about ownership. And every man in this story thinks he's entitled to write my name on a contract. I lift my chin. My eyes burn. My voice goes iron calm, the dangerous kind. They can't protect me, I say. They can only keep me. Nicolo steps closer. He doesn't touch me yet. He just takes up the space between me and the rest of the world until the world feels very far away. His voice drops into consequence. They don't get to keep what's mine, he says. My pulse spikes at the word mine, not because I like it, but because I recognize the truth of it in his world. Then I force myself to say what matters. They just told you the terms, I whisper. Nicolo holds my gaze, and in it I see something that makes my stomach drop all over again. Not panic, certainty. He doesn't bargain. He doesn't negotiate. He ends threats. Now Nicolo says I answer. Chapter 4. The first lesson Nicolo gives me isn't how to shoot. It's how to stop being eaten alive by a room. He clears the dining table like he's preparing for surgery. The fruit bowl disappears. The candles vanish. A guard carries away anything that can make the scene look like a home. Then Nicolo spreads paper across the marble. Maps, floor plans, photographs of corridors and stairwells, grainy stills from security cameras. Lines drawn in black marker slash through them like scars. The marker smells sharp, chemical, permanent. I stand barefoot on cold stone again, my robe replaced by leggings and a plain sweater. No silk, no softness. I feel stripped down to function, and part of me hates how relieved I am. Nicolo taps the map with the marker cap. Door. I follow the line with my eyes. A rectangle, a simple exit. He draws an X through it. Not yours. I look up. Then why is it there? So you stop thinking exits are freedom, he says. They're funnels. My throat tightens. You're teaching me to be paranoid. I'm teaching you to be alive. I cross my arms, refusing to let him see me flinch. So what? I'm supposed to memorize your entire building? Yes. The word is clean. Absolute. Not cruel, just final. Nicolo circles a corridor on the plan. Here, blind corner. Where do you stand if you hear footsteps? I lean over the map. The ink smears faintly under my palm. I point. Here, behind the column. He shakes his head once. Wrong. His voice doesn't sharpen. It gets quieter. That quiet makes my skin tighten. You don't hide where you can't move, he says. You stand where you can see the throat of the corridor. He draws a small dot, then another. Angles, lines of sight, the geometry of survival. I swallow. You talk about this like it's normal. It's my normal. I hate that I believe him. He slides a photo toward me, an overhead shot of a restaurant, tables arranged like an elegant trap. He points at a glossy corner booth. Sit there? I study it. The room looks warm, safe, designed to make people forget they can die in public. No, I say slowly. Back to a wall, near an exit, but not the nearest exit. Nicolo holds my gaze for a beat, measuring. Then he nods once. Approval, delivered like a stamp. My pulse steadies. Purpose rises inside me like something waking. Nicolo sets the marker down. You don't survive by being good, he says. My mouth goes tight. So what am I supposed to be? He doesn't answer with a speech. He answers by pushing another photograph across the marble. A man smiling at a charity gala, his hands open, his eyes kind. Nicolo circles the man's wrist, a faint line under his cuff. Gun. My stomach drops. How do you know? You don't wear a watch that tight unless you're hiding something. You don't keep your left shoulder back unless you're balancing weight. I look at the photo again, and suddenly the smile looks like a mask. Nicolo leans closer, pointing to the man's eyes. He's looking past the camera, counting. Men who count in a room like that are not there for the Horsdovovs. I hear myself breathe. Slow it down. Don't look down. Don't give fear a grip. Okay, I say, my voice quieter. Okay, I can learn this. Nicolo watches me as if he's watching metal being tempered. You will, he says. Not encouragement, a sentence. The next room he brings me to isn't in the apartment. It's a windowless space 2 floors down with a reinforced door, a table bolted to the ground, and screens lining one wall, live feeds from cameras I didn't know existed. The building's throat. The guards outside it don't speak. They just open the door for Nicolo like he's the only key. Inside, I smell electronics and stale coffee and something older underneath. Gun oil, maybe, or just the residue of men who live ready to do violence. Nicolo doesn't ask if I'm comfortable. He turns on one screen, then another. Different angles, different nights. People walking corridors, staff entering rooms, a maid pausing too long, beside a door. My skin crawls. Here, Nicolo says, freezing the frame. The maid's hand is near a vent. I lean in. I see a flash of plastic. The bug, I whisper. Nicolo doesn't look at me. Yes. So you know who? No, he cuts in. One-line verdict. Not yet. My jaw clenches. Then why show me? He turns toward me at last. Because you think danger is outside. I hold his stare, refusing to shrink. It is outside. It's everywhere, he corrects, so you learn to see it everywhere. The screen shows the maid again, moving with casual confidence like she belongs. I feel a cold, tight understanding settle in my ribs. Nicolo points to the pause of the maid's shoulders. Tells. I repeat it like a prayer I don't want. Tells. People lie with their mouths, he says. They confess with their bodies. He switches to another feed, the lobby, earlier today. A man enters, glances at the cameras, then looks away too quickly. Nicolo pauses the frame at the exact moment the man's gaze flicks. I exhale. He knows where they are. Nicolo nods. Good. The word lands in me like heat. I hate that I want more of it. By dusk, the lockdown has loosened into something more dangerous, movement, controlled movement. Nicolo dresses like war, pretending to be business. Black suit, no tie. Cufflinks like small weapons. I'm put into a dress again. Simpler, darker, the kind of elegance meant to disappear until it needs to stab. I hate how good it fits. How the seam at my waist acknowledges my changing body without announcing it. A guard checks the hem for blades. Another checks my bag like I'm not a person but a package. I bite my tongue until I taste blood. Nicolo watches the checks, his expression carved from stone. He doesn't stop them, he just says, done. And the hands vanish. In the car, he doesn't touch me. He controls the space anyway. Why are we going? I ask. To show them you didn't run. He says, to show them you're not available. My mouth twists. So I'm a message again. His eyes flick to mine. So you don't die in a corner where no one can see you. My pulse stutters. I force it smooth. And what am I supposed to do in this meeting? Nicolo answers like he's giving me a tool. Watch. That's it. No, he says. Count. The car stops. Doors open. The world becomes perfume and cigar smoke and polite teeth again. The venue is quieter than the last event. Smaller, more private, fewer cameras, more teeth. I step inside and feel the pressure at my eardrums. The invisible weight of power in a room where no one needs to raise a voice to cause harm. Nicolo places his hand at my lower back. My spine tightens on reflex. I hate how my body recognizes the anchor. He leans close enough for only me to hear. Don't look down. I keep my gaze level. I'm not afraid. A lie, not total, not useless. A lie sharp enough to be armor. We move through the room. People turn toward Nicolo. Like iron toward a magnet. Eyes flick to me, then away, then back again, careful and greedy, like men staring at a crown they're not allowed to touch. I count the exits without moving my head. One behind the bar, one through a staff corridor, one near the restrooms. Then I count the people. 3 men positioned too far from conversation, too close to the corners. Threats. 2 faces that soften when Nicolo passes, not love, not warmth, but relief. Allies. And 1 man smiling too perfectly, his hands open, his eyes kind. A mask. My stomach tightens. I lean toward Nicolo without turning my head. 3 threats, I murmur. 2 allies. One liar. Nicolo doesn't look at me. He doesn't nod. He just changes his path. Subtle, surgical. So the liar is now on Nicolo's blind side, blocked by Nicolo's own shoulder. My heart punches once. Not fear. Respect. In this world, respect is a survival currency. Nicolo stops near a high table. A man approaches, older, expensive suit, careful smile. He greets Nicolo with the kind of tone that says, I know what you are, and I'm pretending. I don't. Amato, the man says. Bianchi, Nicolo replies. Bianchi's gaze flicks to me. A fraction too long. I feel it like a hand. Before I can speak, Nicolo's palm shifts. His fingers slide from my lower back to my hip, gripping through fabric. Possessive. Public. A silent line drawn in blood. My breath catches. Nicolo doesn't look at me, but his hand is an instruction. Stay present. Stay anchored. Don't let them pull you out of yourself. I force myself not to flinch. Bianchi's eyes cut away, his smile tightening. Fear under manners. I taste it and realize something ugly. The cage isn't just walls. It's reputation. It's consequence. It's men choosing survival over curiosity. Nicolo leans down, his voice for me alone. You see what happens when you stand where I put you. My chin lifts. I see what happens when you treat me like a flag. His grip on my hip tightens, one brief pulse of pressure. Not pain. A warning. Beatrice, he says softly. My name. Used like a restraint. I hate that it steadies me. I hate that I let it. Bianchi speaks again, too casual. Trouble? Nicolo answers without blinking. Always. The word makes the room go quieter, as if the air itself doesn't want to be caught gossiping. I watch the threats I counted. One shifts his stance, another touches his ear, a third stops smiling. They're measuring. They're not daring. Not here. Not in front of Nicolo. I realize my heartbeat is no longer sprinting. It's beating slow, present, controlled. Not because I'm safe, because I'm learning how to be dangerous in plain sight. We leave before the room can decide whether to test boundaries. Back in the car, silence fills the space between us like smoke. I stare out the window at the city sliding by, lights, strangers, normal lives that don't know about crowns made of thorns. I hate this, I say finally. Nicolo doesn't ask what I mean. Good. I turn, anger flickering. Good? Hate keeps you awake, he says. I swallow. And what keeps you awake? His gaze stays forward. Reality. I want to push. I want to demand the truth behind his calm. But the car is moving, and the building is waiting, and the inside threat is still inside. When we return to the apartment, the guards open the door with the same silent precision. I step in, toeing off my shoes like I'm shedding a skin I didn't choose. I cross toward the kitchen. Water, air, something normal. Nicolo follows without sound. I feel him before I see him. That gravity. I turn and catch him staring, not at my face, at my stomach. The look is fast, so fast he thinks it doesn't count. But I've been trained to see tells now. His eyes hold there like he's looking at a miracle, like he's looking at a target, like he's calculating how many bodies it will take to keep that small, unseen future alive. My throat tightens. What? I ask. Nicolo blinks once, his expression sealing shut. Nothing. It's a lie, clean, precise. And the lie tells me everything he refuses to say. Chapter 5. The phone rings like it knows where to cut. I'm in the kitchen when it happens. Coffee gone cold, maps still spread from last night's lesson, marker lines still bleeding across paper like veins. The apartment hums with quiet security. A guard outside the hall, another near the door, radios murmuring behind walls. Nicolo stands by the window, the city under him again. Still. Controlled. A man who looks calm because he refuses to waste movement on fear. My screen flashes a name I haven't said out loud in days. Dad. The word hits my body before it hits my mind. My blood turning cold, my stomach tightening, the old reflex of bracing for disappointment. Nicolo doesn't turn, but I feel him register it anyway, like the room belongs to his senses as much as his eyes. I answer without lifting the phone to my ear. I tap speaker. I want Nicolo to hear every syllable. Not for protection, for witness. Beatrice. My father's voice fills the kitchen, warm at the edges, frantic underneath, panic dressed as affection. My hand curls around the phone hard enough to ache. Say it. A pause. Then the performance begins. We can make this go away, he says. I stare at the map lines on the marble, exits, funnels, blind corners. My father has always spoken like life is a contract you can renegotiate if you sound calm enough. Make what go away, I ask, and my voice is too steady. That steadiness is new. That steadiness is Nicolo's world bleeding into my bones. He swallows loudly. the sound of a man trying to find the right lie. The attention, the mess, people are talking, your name. My name is already being used as a weapon, I cut in. So don't pretend you're calling because you miss me. Silence on the line, then the sigh, the tired parent sigh he used when I was 15 and dared to want something. Beatrice, listen, I'm trying to help you. Behind me, Nicolo shifts once, barely a sound, not coming closer, not taking over, just present. A shadow that can kill, a silence that makes liars careful. I keep my eyes on the phone as if I can force the truth through glass. You're trying to help yourself, I say. My father laughs softly, as if I'm adorable. That's not fair. No, I answer. It's accurate. A beat. Then he changes tactic. You don't understand what you've stepped into, he says, his voice lowering, conspiratorial. These people, this man, my throat tightens. Don't say his name like he's a disease. I'm not saying he is. The lie comes too fast. I'm saying he attracts problems, Beatrice, and now you're tied to it. Tied, like a rope, like I'm not a person, just a thing caught in someone else's hands. I glance toward Nicolo. He's still by the window, watching the reflection in the glass, not the city. Watching me without letting me feel watched, letting me lead. My chin lifts the way it does when my eyes burn, and I refuse to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing it. Say your solution, I tell my father. Another pause, longer. Then he exhales as if he's about to deliver mercy. There are conversations happening, he says. People who can smooth this. People who can restore balance. Balance. The word in the Ordine's letter. The word that tastes like ownership. My stomach turns. Who are you talking to? It doesn't matter, he snaps, then softens immediately. I'm doing what I have to protect our family. Our family, I repeat, and something inside me goes quiet and sharp. You mean your name, your accounts, your reputation. Beatrice, you didn't lose me, I say, and now my voice is a blade held perfectly still. You spent me. The line hangs in the kitchen, heavier than the marble. My father's breath catches. That's dramatic. It's precise. Behind me, Nicolo says nothing. The silence is an endorsement. My father tries again, his voice pleading now, raw. You're pregnant. My heart stutters. Not because he said it like it's his bargaining chip too. I keep my voice even. Don't use my child to make yourself sound human. A sharp inhale on the line. Beatrice, he says, switching to anger because guilt would require a soul. I'm trying to keep you alive. By trading me, I say. No. Too quick. Too loud. By negotiating. I step closer to the counter, my palms on the map, grounding myself in lines and facts instead of childhood. Negotiate what? My father hesitates, and in that hesitation I hear the truth clear as gunfire. Then he says it. There are terms, he admits. If you separate yourself from him, they'll stop. My skin goes cold. It's bigger than you, he insists. Bigger than him. They want stability. They want tradition. My mouth twists. Tradition. Balance. Debts. My father goes silent. That silence is a confession. Nicolo finally moves, one step quiet as a predator. He comes to stand behind me, not touching me, just close enough that I feel the heat of him at my back, like a promise of violence held on a leash. He still doesn't speak. He lets me have this. My voice drops. You've been talking to them. I've been talking to people who can end this, my father says, desperation leaking through the polish. You don't know what they're capable of. I do, I say, because they write it down like etiquette. My father's voice turns careful as if he's handling a delicate object. Beatrice, sweetheart, if you come home, if you step away from him, we can protect you. I laugh once, bitter enough to sting my throat. You couldn't protect me from a bad boyfriend in high school. Don't, I cut in. Don't rewrite history because you need a clean conscience. His patience snaps. The rot shows. It's business, Beatrice. One sentence. And in it, something in me finally dies. Cleanly, without drama. Childhood, hope, the last stupid belief that he might have loved me more than he loved being safe. My eyes burn. My voice does not shake. Thank you, I say softly. That's the only honest thing you've ever said to me. My father rushes in, panicked. Listen to me. Amato can give them what they want. He can pay. He can make concessions and... Concessions, I repeat. So this is what you're offering. It's not offering, he insists. It's survival. If he gives them something, territory, access, money, and I'm the collateral, I finish. Silence. Then the smallest, ugliest truth in his voice. You'll be safe. I close my eyes for one beat, not to cry, to aim. When I open them, I look at Nicolo over my shoulder. He meets my gaze once, a single steady look that says, "I'm here. Do it." I turn back to the phone. "You don't have a daughter," I say. Each word measured. Final. "You have a debt." My father's breathing turns ragged. "Beatrice, please." The word please sounds wrong in his mouth, like he's borrowing it. My thumb hovers over the screen. My father's voice turns sharp with desperation. "Then pay it," he spits, the mask slipping entirely. "Pay it, with him." The sentence hits like a slap. My stomach twists, rage and nausea braided together. My hand goes to my belly on instinct, protective, furious. Behind me, Nicolo goes perfectly still. My voice goes ice. "You just tried to sell me twice." "What?" my father snaps. "Once to your reputation," I say. "Once to whatever they promised you. You think I don't hear the math?" "Beatrice," I end the call. The silence after is violent in its cleanliness. No pleading, no apologies, no forgiveness, just air. I stare at the black screen until my reflection becomes a stranger, eyes sharper, mouth set, hands steady. Behind me, Nicolo finally speaks. One word. Again, I swallow hard. He's not going to stop. Nicolo steps closer, the front of his suit brushing my back like a wall moving in. Still no touch, just presence, containment, a world narrowing to two people and one unborn future. "No," Nicolo says. He isn't. I turn in his shadow and lift my chin. Then neither am I. Chapter 6. The safest place in Nicolo Amato's world is where you die first. I learned that in the back seat of an armored sedan that smells like leather and disinfectant, clean enough to be a lie. 2 cars in front, 1 behind. The kind of convoy that makes strangers look away and makes predators count the seconds between corners. My appointment is a private clinic Nicolo chose because it has no sign and no waiting room and no mercy. A doctor who answers questions with credentials and fear. A route changed 3 times since dawn. "Stay down if anything happens," the guard beside me says, his eyes on the tinted window. I watch the city through dark glass. The sunlight outside feels obscene. People carrying groceries, a man walking a small dog, a woman laughing at a phone. Normal lives. Unaware lives. My own phone sits in my lap, the encrypted one Nicolo shoved into my world like a lock. No notifications. No noise. That silence is never peace. The car takes a turn I don't recognize. I sit up, my spine tightening. "We're rerouting," the driver says, too fast. My skin goes cold. "Why?" The guard's hand lifts slightly, his palm toward me, command without words. "Stay down." I don't. Training has ruined obedience. Training has taught me that comfort kills. I lean forward, my eyes on the rearview mirror. The driver's eyes aren't the same. It's a small thing, shape, set, the way he holds the wheel too neatly. Like he's performing being a driver. My heartbeat goes loud. "Who are you?" I ask, my voice flat, quiet, deadly. The guard snaps, reaching across me. "Beatrice?" The driver doesn't answer. He just takes another turn, sharper. Rubber squeals. The smell of burned tire floods the cabin. Ahead, a fender bender clogs the narrow street. 2 cars tangled at an angle that blocks the lane perfectly. Too perfect. A woman stands outside gesturing wildly, her hair disheveled, her face panicked, a staged panic, a staged wall. The lead car brakes hard, the second car brakes, my car brakes. And the 3rd car behind us hits, not hard enough to crush, but hard enough to jar the world sideways. Metal screams, my head snaps back, the seatbelt bites my ribs, panic spikes hot. "Stay down," the guard barks, his body shifting to shield me. Glass cracks, not from impact, from a bullet. A spiderweb blooms on the window beside my shoulder, the sound like a fist through ice. My mouth goes dry. This isn't random. This is aimed. Another crack. The second bullet hits higher, testing the glass. The guard drags me down by the collar of my coat, forcing my head toward the floor. "Down!" My hands are already moving. I rip the seatbelt latch free and grab the driver's seat headrest with one hand to steady myself. My other hand claws for something, anything. The guard's keys, a pen, the metal clasp of my bag. My fingers catch the guard's keyring as he leans across me. I yank. "Move, now," I snap. Not at the guard, but at myself. At the world. The driver's door unlock clicks once. The driver starts to get out. Not to help, to open the back door. To present me like an offering. I surge up and slam my palm against the driver's shoulder as he twists. Hard. Enough to throw off his balance. He swears and turns, and I drive the sharp end of the key between his fingers into the soft webbing near his knuckle. It's crude, violent, efficient. He jerks back with a hiss, pain blowing his control apart. The guard beside me grabs for the driver, but I catch his sleeve and yank him down behind the seat. Cover, I order, like I belong to this world now. Outside voices. Not police, not civilians. Men moving with practiced speed. Rear door, someone shouts. Then the line that makes my blood turn to ice because it tells me exactly what I am to them. Take the girl alive. Alive, not dead. Not a corpse on asphalt. A possession. My hand flies to my belly instinctively, shielding what I can't yet protect with strength. The motion is pure animal, and then whether it's the baby or terror, or my mind trying to give me something to hold, I feel it. A small roll inside me, a pulse of presence, real enough to steal my breath, real enough to snap something in me clean in half. Fear can be loud, steel is quiet. I inhale once, slow, controlled. I look at the cracked window, the bullets testing the glass like teeth. The guard's gun comes out, pointed toward the front. We're pinned, he growls into his radio. Shots fired. The radio screams back with static and overlapping voices. The convoy is chaos. The accident is a trap. Our own safe route is a funnel. Nicolo taught me funnels. I am not staying in one. I grab the guard's gun hand, not the gun, the wrist, and push it down. What the hell, he starts. Listen, I say, my voice low and cutting. They want me, not you. If I'm in this car, they win. The guard's eyes flick to me, wide with disbelief. I don't ask permission. I open my bag and rip out the small cosmetic mirror, cheap, reflective, useless in normal life. Not useless now. I angle it toward the cracked window, catch a slice of the street. 2 men on the sidewalk, moving up the line of cars. Weapons low, confident. One's had zip ties looped around his fingers like jewelry. Capture crew. My stomach turns. The guard's hand tightens on his weapon. Stay down, he repeats like it's a prayer. I look at the door. The back door. Locked. But locks are for people who wait. I reach forward and slam the driver's door open from inside with the heel of my hand, using the driver's momentary distraction and the jolt of the crash. Cold air floods in, carrying exhaust and burned rubber and the sharp metallic taste of danger. The driver lunges back toward the open door, trying to close it. I kick out, heel to shin. High heel, hard point. He collapses with a strangled sound, grabbing his leg. The guard stares at me like he's seeing me for the first time. I don't look at him. I look at the street, at the men with zip ties, at the staged accident that blocks the lane, at the narrow alley between a bakery and a shuttered tailor shop. Dark, tight, overlooked. An exit, not freedom. A throat. But I can run a throat if I become the bite. I grab the guard by the shoulder and shove him lower behind the seat. Stay alive, I say. That's an order. Then I slide out of the car, keeping my body low, moving fast and ugly. No elegance, no hesitation. A shot cracks. The bullet pings off the car frame above my head. I flinch only enough to change angle. I sprint 3 steps, then drop behind the front wheel of the second car, using the metal as cover. My lungs burn. My pulse roars. I taste blood. I've bitten my lip hard enough to split it. Good. Pain is proof I'm awake. A man rounds the back of the lead car, weapon up, eyes scanning. He sees me. His mouth curls. There she is. My hand closes around the keyring, still clenched in my fist. Metal, sharp edges, a small spike tool attached for some stupid luxury purpose. I wait until he steps closer, confident, thinking I'm prey. Then I move. I pop up fast, throw the cosmetic mirror toward his face. Not to hit, but to make him blink. It works. Reflex is faster than training. In that blink, I slam my shoulder into his chest and drive the spike tool into the soft underside of his jawline, just off center, enough to make him scream, enough to make his hands fly to his throat. Not lethal. Disabling. Efficient. He drops his gun. I snatch it without thinking, but I don't fire. I don't have time to aim. I have time to move. I run, straight into the alley. Someone shouts behind me. Boots slap pavement. The capture crew pivots, furious now. Don't let her disappear. My breath comes sharp, controlled. I turn once inside the alley, see a metal service door half bolted. A simple latch. I slam into it. Locked, of course. My hands don't shake. I raise the stolen gun and fire 1 shot into the latch. The sound in the alley is deafening. My ears ring. The metal pops and the door swings inward. I slip inside. A back corridor, storage, flour sacks, old boxes, the sour smell of yeast and sweat. I run through it, shoving past a cart, knocking it over behind me. The crash echoes, a crude barricade. Footsteps hit the door I blasted. A man curses. She's inside. I don't stop. I shove through another door and burst out behind the bakery, Trash bins, a narrow service lane, sunlight like a slap. I run left, 2 rights, bridge. My mind recites directions like a list because lists keep you alive. A hand grabs for my elbow. I twist and drive my knee up into the groin without apology. The man folds with a sound like air leaving a tire. I don't look back to see if he stays down. I keep running. My lungs burn. My lip bleeds. My stomach tightens. Not cramps, not pain, just the hard, protective clamp of adrenaline. Then I hear it. Sirens in the distance. Not police. The wrong rhythm. Engines. Nicolo's engines. I turn a corner into a narrower lane and finally stop. My back to a brick wall. The stolen gun heavy in my hand. My body starts to shake now that it's allowed to. Not weakness. Release. I wipe my mouth with the back of my hand and see blood smear red across my skin. Footsteps thunder in. Not attackers. Men in black. Nicolo's men, weapons out, faces hard. One of them sees me and freezes for half a breath, like he didn't expect me upright. Then Nicolo appears behind them. He moves into the lane with the stillness of controlled violence. His suit jacket open, his eyes fixed on me like the world narrowed to a single point. He's too late. Not too late for my life. Too late for comfort. He takes in the scene in one ruthless sweep. The blood on my mouth, the gun in my hand, the tremor in my shoulders, the way I stand anyway. Beatrice, he says. My name is not a warning this time. It's a claim wrapped around fear he refuses to admit. I swallow. My throat is raw. They tried to take me. His eyes flick to my belly. Fast, precise, then back to my face. Are you hurt? He asks, his voice quiet enough to be dangerous. My lip, I say, and hate that it sounds small compared to what almost happened. Nothing else. Nicolo steps closer. He doesn't touch me yet. He stares at the gun in my hand, then at my fingers, steady on the grip, then at my face, blood, steel, defiance. His jaw tightens once, and I see the moment it hits him. I didn't wait to be saved. I didn't beg. I became violence, a partner, and because of that, a liability. Because I will move without permission now. I hold his gaze, shaking and standing and refusing to collapse into the role they wrote for me. Nicolo's voice drops into a verdict, meant for me and for the men listening. Good, he says. One word, not praise. Recognition. Then he turns his head slightly, his eyes cutting toward the street beyond the lane. Find the driver, he says to his men. Alive. My stomach clenches. Alive means questions. Alive means consequences. Nicolo looks back at me, and the fear in his eyes is strangled into control so hard it becomes something else entirely. He steps in close enough that the world reduces to him. Not today, I whisper, because I need to hear it in my own voice. Nicolo doesn't answer with comfort. He answers by taking the gun from my hand, careful, exact, then sliding his palm to the small of my back. Not romantic. An anchor. A lock. And as he guides me out of the lane, I realize something cold and electric. The war just became physical. Chapter 7. The city goes quiet the way a throat goes quiet when a hand closes around it. Nicolo Amato doesn't announce a lockdown. He makes one. Phones light up across his network like a constellation of orders. Gates at the edges of the city close. Roads that were open become corridors watched by men who don't blink. Ports slow, clubs empty. Restaurants lose their laughter, their music, their illusion of safety. His captains arrive one by one in the windowless room beneath his building, boots leaving damp prints on concrete that always smells like cold water and old violence. The table is bolted down, the chairs are not. A man is dragged in, hood over his head, hands bound, knees scraping. He's not the only one. 2 more follow. Then another chain of bodies connected by the same simple mistake, thinking the Amato name was a rumor. Nicolo stands at the far end of the table. Cuffs rolled once. Jacket off. Shirt sleeves clean when he enters. They won't be clean when he leaves. He looks at the first man like he's reading a receipt. Names, Nicolo says. The man laughs high, shaky, like he believes bravado is armor. I don't. Nicolo steps forward. Not fast. Not dramatic. He takes the man's hand and places it flat on the table. Then he breaks one finger. The crack is small, precise, almost polite. The scream is not. Nicolo doesn't flinch. He doesn't raise his voice. Names, he repeats. The man sobs now, breath hitching, body folding forward. I was paid. Nicolo tilts his head once, patient as a blade. By who? Whimpers. His forehead hits the table. A driver. A swap. I never saw. Nicolo breaks a second finger. The room fills with wet sound and fear. His captains stare at the wall, at the floor, anywhere but at Nicolo's hands. They've seen this before. They know he isn't angry the way other men are angry. Anger is loud, Nicolo is consequence. Wrong, he says quietly. Again. The man chokes on his own breath. Ordine, someone said. His voice fractures. Crown. Crown. Nicolo stops moving. For one beat, the entire room learns what real silence is. He leans closer, his mouth near the hooded man's ear. Which crown? The man shakes, tears soaking the cloth over his face. I don't know. Nicolo straightens. He looks at his captain on the left. Bring the driver. Alive? The captain asks, his voice careful. Nicolo's eyes don't change. Alive, he says, until he speaks. Then he turns to the next hooded man as if the first one is already finished. Names, Nicolo says again. The word becomes the rhythm of the night. Concrete damp. Men whimper. Nicolo doesn't. Above ground, the apartment is too bright, too clean, too normal for what just happened on the street. I sit on the edge of the couch in a plain shirt and sweatpants, my hair pulled back with shaking fingers that refuse to stop trembling. I've washed the blood off my hands twice, and the sink still feels dirty. My lip is split, swollen, the red line of it a constant reminder of teeth and panic, and the moment I decided to live by becoming something sharp. A guard stands near the door, another near the hall. They're quieter than usual, like even they're listening for the sound of Nicolo's return. I press a cold glass of water to my mouth. It stings. Good. Sting is real. My phone vibrates once, not a message. A status ping from the encrypted system Nicolo forced into my life. Lockdown active. I exhale slowly through my nose. He's doing what he does. War as love. I hate that my chest tightens with relief anyway. Hours pass in jagged pieces, footsteps outside, a radio murmur, a door opening somewhere in the building, then closing again with a final click. I get up once, walk to the kitchen. Stare at the maps, still spread out like the world is a puzzle I can solve if I stare hard enough. I trace a marker line with my finger. Funnels, throats, exits that are not freedom. I hear Nicolo's voice in my head. Hate keeps you awake. I hear my own voice louder. I won't disappear. The lock clicks, not the apartment door, the deadbolt. Only one man keys it that way. I turn before I mean to. Nicolo steps inside with two men behind him, and the air changes instantly. Like oxygen has been replaced with something heavier. His cuffs are dark, not with shadow, with blood. It stains the edge of his white shirt where his wrists moved and moved and moved. His face is calm. His eyes are not. His men peel away into the hall and vanish, the door closing softly behind them as if even sound is afraid of him. Nicolo walks toward me in a straight line. No greeting, no question yet, just a direct approach like I'm the only point that matters. My throat tightens. My body knows him the way it knows weather, the pressure shift before the storm. He stops in front of me. His gaze goes first to my mouth, the swollen lip, the faint dried red at the corner I missed. Then his eyes drop, quick, almost violent in its precision, to my stomach. A check, a calculation, a fear he refuses to name. Then his gaze returns my face. Are you hurt? He asks. It's the closest he has ever come to tenderness in a sentence. My voice comes out rough. My lip, that's it. Nicolo's jaw tightens once, releases. His hand lifts like he's about to touch me, then stops half an inch from my face, as if he doesn't trust his own restraint. He lowers it. Instead, he turns and walks to the sink, thrusts his hands under running water. Red swirls down the drain in thin ribbons. I watch the blood leave him and feel something violent in my chest. Anger and want and terror braided into one ugly rope. He wipes his hands on a towel. The towel turns pink. He throws it away like it's nothing. Then he's in front of me again. Closer. Too close. Containment is comfort. I lift my chin. Did you find out who? Nicolo's eyes sharpen. Not enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. His voice stays low, controlled. Sit. I don't sit. My heartbeat kicks. No, the word lands between us like a thrown knife. Nicolo's gaze hardens. Beatrice? I don't flinch at my name this time. I use it. I saved myself, I say, because you weren't there. A muscle in his jaw jumps, once, then still. His voice is quieter when he speaks again, which makes it more dangerous. I know. And now you're going to lock me in this apartment until the baby. I stop myself before the sentence turns into something I can't take back. My hand goes to my belly anyway, instinctive, furious, until you decide the world is safe. Nicolo steps closer. Protection isn't prison, I say, forcing the words out clean. His eyes don't blink. In my world, it is. The sentence is brutal because it's honest. I feel heat rise under my skin, a raw pulse that isn't just anger. It's the way his certainty makes me feel held while he's hurting me. I hate him for that. You're going to erase me, I say, my voice shaking now with rage, not fear. You're going to make me a locked room with a heartbeat. Nicolo's gaze flicks to my mouth again, blood evidence, then back up. You think I care about optics right now, he says. You think I care if you hate me. I care if you breathe. I laugh once, sharp. So you'll own me to make sure I breathe. A pause. Nicolo's hand comes up, not to strike, to anchor. He grips my jaw, firm, not hard, his thumb near the corner of my mouth, careful around the split skin. The touch is intimate because it's controlled, because it's restraint under pressure. Look at me, he says. My eyes lock on his. I see it there, behind the calm. Not softness, fear, real fear, strangled into obedience. Nicolo's voice drops into a vow he believes with his whole violent body. You are not allowed to die. My breath catches. For one dangerous second, my anger falters into something else. Being wanted like this changes you, marks you, rewrites the way your body understands safety. I tear myself back from the edge. I will not become a cage that thanks its lock. My voice goes quiet and precise, the most dangerous version of me. Then stop trying to own me to keep me alive. Nicolo stares at me as if I just put a blade under his ribs. He doesn't step back. He doesn't apologize. He holds my jaw for one more beat, anchoring, claiming, containing the urge to pull me into him and the urge to burn the entire city down. Then he releases me like letting go costs him. His eyes stay fixed on me like I am the last line of his soul. And in the silence that follows, I understand something chilling. The war outside our door is real, but the war inside our relationship, the battle between protection and erasure, might be what decides whether I survive as myself. Chapter 8. I don't ask for permission. I ask for the parts of the machine that can crush me. Morning comes gray and thin, the kind of light that makes everything look like evidence. The apartment is quieter than the night before. No screams below, no radio spitting urgency. Just the heavy, tense stillness that follows violence when men believe they've bought control. My lip is swollen. The split line has scabbed dark. It pulls when I speak. Good. Let it hurt. Let it remind me what happens when I wait. Nicolo is at the island with a laptop open and a phone in his hand, speaking in that low voice that turns the world into a checklist. Double the perimeter. A pause. No, pull the staff list again. Another pause. I want every driver name from the last month. He ends the call and doesn't look up. I stand on the other side of the marble, my palms flat, feeling the cold seep into my skin like a warning. You're doing it again, I say. He keeps typing. Doing what? Building a cage and calling it love. His fingers stop, not because he's offended, because I used the wrong word in his house. His gaze lifts slow, storm-glass eyes, controlled face. I don't call it love, he says. My throat tightens anyway, then call it what it is. His answer is immediate, surgical. Survival. I breathe in once, slow, and force myself not to flinch at how much I believe him. Then I lean forward, closer to the map still stained with marker and the reality still stained with my blood. I want the ledger, I say. Nicolo doesn't blink. No. My jaw tightens. Wrong. A flicker in his eyes. Interest, not amusement. You don't get to tell me no and expect me to keep breathing inside your walls, I say, my voice sharpening. I want to know who profits. I want routes, money trails, loyalties, the names you don't say out loud. He closes the laptop with a soft click like shutting a coffin. Why? He asks. I laugh once, bitter. Because they tried to take me alive. His gaze drops, fast, to my belly, checks, calculates, then returns to my face. Because, I continue, not letting him derail me into being careful, I am not your weakness. I am not their currency. And I am not going to sit here while men trade my future like it's a port. Nicolo watches me for a long beat. Silence, used like a weapon. So I use my own. Teach me, I say. The line has been sitting behind my teeth like a blade. Or lose me. The air shifts. His jaw tightens once, releases, like he's deciding whether to hand a loaded gun to someone he can't control. His voice goes quiet. You think knowledge makes you safe. I think ignorance makes me dead. A pause. Then he reaches into the drawer he used to stash encrypted phones and sets a black folder on the marble. Thick, heavy, tabbed. Not paper, strategy made physical. I don't touch it yet. I wait, my eyes on him. He nods once, permission without softness. I open it. Numbers, names, shell companies, accounts layered like lies, routes coded in shorthand, captains listed with notations beside them, loyal, paid, watched. My stomach turns with the sheer scale of it. This is a city, I whisper. It's a body, Nicolo corrects, and you're learning where it bleeds. I look up. Who would sell me? He doesn't answer with comfort. He answers with reality. Anyone who can't afford not to. My fingers tighten on the folder. Then I want to see who's poor. His eyes sharpen. Pride flickers. Small, hidden, dangerous. Like a man realizing the weapon he's been shielding has teeth. You want power, Nicolo says. I want agency, I shoot back. There's a difference. He steps around the island toward me. Not looming, claiming space. You don't get power because you want it, he says. You get it because you can hold it. I lift my chin. Test me. He stops close enough that I can smell him. Cold cologne, clean restraint, and something darker under it today. Blood scrubbed off skin, not off intent. Fine, he says. One word, a verdict. The first test isn't dramatic. That's what makes it brutal. He takes me downstairs into the building's throat, the windowless room with screens and stale coffee and the sense that walls here have heard too much. A guard opens the reinforced door. Doesn't speak. Inside, Nicolo points at a live feed of the lobby. Find the tail, he says. My pulse kicks, then steadies. Training. Count. Watch. People move across the screen. A woman with a tote bag, a man in a hoodie, a couple arguing softly. I scan patterns, not faces. Who stops when they shouldn't? Who looks twice? Who avoids cameras too well? There, near the pillar, a man pretending to read his phone, but his eyes keep lifting at the same angle every time the elevator dings. I point. Him. Nicolo doesn't praise. He tests deeper. Why? He doesn't move when he should, I say. He's not waiting, he's watching, and he's left-handed. He looks at my hand like it's evidence. How do you know? The phone is in his right hand and his thumb isn't doing anything, I say. It's a prop. He's keeping his left side free. Nicolo holds my gaze for one beat. Then, good. The word lands in me like heat. He switches feeds. A conference room upstairs. Men seated, one speaking, the rest nodding. Who's lying? He asks. I narrow my eyes. I watch hands. I watch shoulders. I watch the tiny betrayals of body language Nicolo drilled into me until I started seeing them in strangers on the street. The speaker's mouth is smooth. His hands are open. Too open. The man to his left nods, but his foot taps under the table. Fast, irregular. Fear. I point at the speaker. He's selling something. Nicolo steps closer. Say it. He's not convinced, I say. He's rehearsed. He keeps touching his ring because he's thinking, calculating. He's lying. Nicolo doesn't argue. He makes it sharper. He picks up the desk phone and holds it out to me. I stare. What? Call him, Nicolo says. Ask one question. Make him tell the truth. My stomach tightens. If I do this, you do it, he cuts in. My hands don't shake when I take the phone. That's the terrifying part. I dial the extension number printed on a sticky note. It rings. Once. Twice. The man answers with polished warmth. Yes. I keep my voice even, almost bored. What did you tell the Ordine? Silence. A breath. Then he laughs too quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. I lean in, my eyes on the screen. You do, I say, because your foot is tapping. Because you're lying, and because if you keep lying, Nicolo will ask you in person. On screen, the man's face drains of color. His mouth opens, closes. Then, I heard, I hang up. My pulse is steady. My mouth tastes like iron. Nicolo watches me like I just stepped into a shape he recognizes. You miss, he says quietly. You bleed. I meet his stare. Then stop giving me targets and calling it protection. A flicker, something sharp and pleased in him. Not softness, respect with teeth. He turns toward the far wall. Next, he says. The shooting range is inside the building. Of course it is. Concrete corridor, 2 steel doors, a code, a second code. Soundproofing thick enough to swallow screams and gunshots the same way. I smell gun oil before I see anything else. Metallic and bitter, like pennies crushed between teeth. Nicolo walks me to the line. There's no instructor waiting, no friendly voice, just him. He sets a pistol on the table between us. Black, clean. Simple. It looks small compared to what it can do. That's how weapons always look. My throat tightens, my hand hovers, then stops. Nicolo watches me closely, not to judge fear, to measure control. Pick it up, he says. I do. The grip is colder than I expect, heavier, real. My pulse spikes. I force it down. Nicolo steps behind me, not touching yet, just close enough that I feel his body heat at my back, the presence that has been both prison and shelter. Breathe. he says, his voice low near my ear. Squeeze, don't flinch, I swallow. I'm not Beatrice. My name is an anchor now. Arms straight, not locked. His hands come to me, brief, exact. He corrects my grip with 2 fingers, presses my elbow down a fraction, aligns my shoulders. Control becomes intimacy whether I want it or not. The pistol smells like oil and steel and consequences. I stare at the paper target downrange, human silhouette, center mass marked faintly. Center, Nicolo says. Not hero shots, not movies, center. My lip tugs as I inhale. Pain stings. Good, I steady the sights. My hands are steady. That's the terrifying part. Exhale, Nicolo murmurs. Now. I squeeze. The gun bucks. The crack is loud, even through the soundproofing. My wrists absorb it, my shoulders jolt. I don't flinch away. I don't drop the gun. The paper silhouette twitches as a hole appears in its chest. I blink. Then I fire again. Another crack, another hole. Close to the first, center mass. My breath comes faster, then slows as the adrenaline turns into something cleaner. Power. My fear steps back like an animal recognizing a bigger predator. Nicolo is silent behind me. I lower the gun slightly and look over my shoulder. His eyes are fixed on me with an intensity that feels like hunger and fear braided together. Not because I'm beautiful. Because I'm real to him in a new way. A woman who can bite. Nicolo steps closer, his voice a low verdict against my ear. Good, he says. I face the target again. I fire a 3rd time, center. And when the echo dies, I realize I like who I'm becoming. That's the most dangerous truth in the room. Chapter 9. The package arrives like an insult wrapped in silk. A guard carries it in with both hands as if it's holy. Black box, satin ribbon, wax seal soaped. It looks mass-produced by men who think tradition is permission. I'm still in the clothes I trained in. Dark shirt, hair tied back, the faint bruise-colored scab at my lip, a stubborn line. My hands smell faintly of gun oil, no matter how often I wash them. Nicolo takes the box without thanks. He doesn't sit. He doesn't invite ceremony. He sets it on the island like evidence. I stare at the seal. The thorn's crown crest presses into the wax, smug and familiar. They're not subtle, I say. Nicolo draws a knife from his pocket and slices the ribbon in one clean motion. They don't need to be. He breaks the wax with the same surgical calm he used on the first letter. The crack is small. Final. Inside, a folder thicker than my ledger. Cream paper. Embossed crest. Signatures already printed. Blank lines waiting for the last piece of ownership. And gifts. A velvet box with a ring inside. Heavy gold, old-world design. A crown etched into the band like a brand. A second box with a necklace. Pearls. Too white, too perfect like teeth. Rotten sweetness. My skin crawls. They think I'm bought with jewelry. They think you're bought with legitimacy, Nicolo says. He opens the contract and scans it the way he scans a threat. Fast, precise, taking what matters and discarding the rest. I read over his shoulder anyway. A lawful union ensures the heir's safety. A legitimate banner restores balance. The mother will be protected. The line will endure. Protected. Preserved. Different words. Same cage. My hand moves to my belly on instinct. I force it away, refusing to give the paper this faction. Nicolo turns one page. Then another, his eyes narrow. Not anger, calculation turning lethal. I watch him and feel the room tighten like the building itself is bracing. What? I ask. Nicolo taps a clause with the edge of his finger. Succession. I lean in. The language is cold and elegant. The reigning authority acknowledges transition. All territories under the Amato sphere will be rebalanced under proper stewardship. In exchange, the Amato line retains honor without bloodshed. My mouth goes dry. They're not offering to kill you. Nicolo looks up, his eyes darker than the ink. No, his voice drops. They want my throne without my blood. The sentence lands like a blade sliding between ribs. This is not a proposal. It's a takeover wrapped in a wedding dress. My pulse kicks hard. So I'd be married to... An heir broker, Nicolo says. A crown holder, a man who doesn't need you to love him, only to comply. My jaw clenches. And you? Nicolo doesn't answer at first. Silence, used like a weapon against the rage trying to climb out of him. Then he says flat, displaced. The word tastes like war. My hands curl into fists. They're trying to erase you the way you're trying to erase me. Nicolo holds my gaze, a quiet stare that says, don't confuse my cage with theirs. Before he can speak, my phone vibrates. Then his. Then the guards in the hall. A stutter of electronics like a swarm. I look down. A notification from a news account I don't follow. A photo, grainy, taken from a distance, Me leaving the clinic building days ago with a hand pressed unconsciously to my stomach. Another shot from the convoy aftermath, me in the service lane, Nicolo's men closing in, Nicolo's palm at my back, captions stacked like knives. Amato heir confirmed. Baby will decide the succession war. Who owns the future? My stomach drops so hard I taste bile. The screen glare feels like a spotlight, like my skin has been peeled back in public and pinned up for strangers to examine. Nicolo, I say, and my voice is too calm for the panic trying to rip me open. He's already looking, already reading, already turning it into a battlefield. His jaw tightens once, releases. Not a flinch, a lock clicking. They leaked it, I say. Yes. And now everyone? Yes. The room feels suddenly full of eyes that aren't there. My breath comes too fast. I force it slower because fear makes you sloppy, and sloppiness makes you dead. Nicolo doesn't touch me. He doesn't soothe. He reaches for his phone and sends one message, one line, one order to someone who will move the city again. Then he looks at the contract, at the ring, at the pearls, at the implication. We can make her public. We can make her yours. We can make him irrelevant. I step forward. I take the contract out of Nicolo's hand before he can stop me. The paper is thick, expensive. It feels like skin. Nicolo watches me, his eyes unreadable. Beatrice, he says once. Warning, anchor, restraint. I meet his gaze anyway. They think my child is a stamp. My fingers grip the top edge of the contract. You want to know what I'm choosing, I say, my voice iron calm. Then I tear it, straight down the center. The sound is violent in the quiet, paper ripping like a gunshot. I tear it again and again, until the elegant clauses become confetti. I drop the ruined pages onto the marble like garbage. They don't get to rename my child, I say. The words land with teeth. For one beat, Nicolo is silent. Not because he's surprised I'm defiant, because he's seeing what I am becoming. Not a weakness, not a vessel. A queen learning how to burn cages from the inside. His gaze lingers on me, steady, intense, something like awe strangled into control. Then he reaches past the shredded contract, takes the ring box, and closes it with a soft click. A verdict. He looks at me and speaks in the same quiet certainty he uses for war. This is not happening, he says. My phone vibrates again. Another headline, another repost, another stranger sharing my body like it's communal property. I swallow bile and fury together. They already made it happen, I whisper. Nicolo steps closer, not to comfort but to contain the blast radius of my rage. His voice drops lethal calm. Then we make them pay for saying it out loud. Chapter. I decide to stop waiting for the next attempt to find me. I do it in Nicolo's kitchen, under the same cold marble where I tore their contract into confetti, under the same headlines still multiplying on every screen like flies on a wound. Amato Heir confirmed. The words are everywhere. On his phone, my phone, the muted TV a guard forgot to turn off. The world saying your body belongs to the story now. I stand at the island with the ledger folder open, my eyes scanning names and routes and money like I'm reading a map out of a burning building. Nicolo stands 3 feet away, his arms loose at his sides, his posture carved from restraint. He hasn't slept. You can't see it in his face, but you can see it in the way he's too still, like if he moves wrong, he'll break something he can't replace. I close the folder. The sound is clean, final. I want to set a trap, I say. Nicolo doesn't blink. No, my mouth tightens. Wrong answer. His eyes darken slow. Beatrice. My name is a warning and an anchor, but it doesn't stop me anymore. Not after bullets, not after zip ties, not after my pregnancy being turned into public sport. Let them think I'm accessible, I say. The words hit him like a slap. His jaw tightens once, releases. You were accessible, he says. Quiet, deadly. They shot at your window, and I lived. Silence, not empty. Loaded. Nicolo steps closer, and the space between us turns tight, electric, light, dangerous. You don't get used as bait again, he says. I lift my chin, my lip tugs with healed pain. I don't flinch. I'm already being used. By them, by headlines, by your enemies, by my father. The only difference is whether I get to choose. Nicolo's stare sharpens, savage with protective instinct. You think choosing makes it safer, he says. I think choosing makes it mine, I answer, and I'm done being handled. His gaze flicks to my belly, fast, involuntary, then up again as if he hates that his own body betrays him. No, he says again, quieter. Not you. I step around the island, closing the distance on purpose. I refuse to talk across furniture like I'm pleading. If you won't teach me to bite, I say, you'll keep pulling me behind you until one day you pull a body bag. His nostrils flare once. He doesn't look away. That's not a threat, I add. It's math. Nicolo holds my gaze for a long beat. His silence presses like a hand on my throat, not choking, measuring. Then he turns sharply away and starts to pace. 2 steps. 3. Turn. The kind of movement that means his mind is carving through options with a blade. I watch him, my heart hammering, my mouth dry, refusing to back down. He stops at the window, the city spread beneath him like a nerve system. For a beat, he looks like a man deciding whether to burn everything down or finally let someone else hold a match. He turns back. How? Nicolo says. One word. It's not agreement. It's a door unlocking. My breath catches, then steadies. I keep my voice precise, not excited. Excitement gets you killed. We leak controlled information, I say. A fake weakness, a fake route, a fake appointment. Nicolo's eyes narrow, and you. I'm present, I say. Visible, enough to lure them. Not enough to take me if you do your job. Nicolo steps in close, his voice dropping. My job is to keep you breathing, not to prove a point. I don't soften. I can't afford to. I'm not doing this to prove a point, I say. I'm doing it to find the leak, to force them to show their hand. Because they're already inside our walls, Nicolo. If we don't pull them out, they'll keep coming until one of them succeeds. His jaw tightens, releases. His gaze is hungry with something that isn't desire, recognition. The thrill of a partner who understands war. You want to be the bait, he says. I choose it, I reply. The word choose lands like a power shift I can feel in my teeth. Nicolo stares at me for one sharp beat, and I see the moment his respect collides with his fear. He doesn't say fine, he doesn't say okay, he says rules. I lift a brow. I knew there'd be a cage. No, Nicolo says, a weapon has rules. I hate that I like being called that. He steps back and gestures once, summoning. Within seconds, the kitchen fills with motion. A guard enters, then another. A tablet appears, a map, radios. Nicolo becomes command again, his voice low and clean. Fake appointment, he says. Tomorrow, private clinic, different one. Route A on paper, route B in practice. He points to the map. Only 4 people know the paper route. One of the guards hesitates. Boss, Nicolo's gaze slices. Only 4. The guard nods once, swallowing. Nicolo continues. Surveillance on every intersection, 2 cars unmarked, 1 decoy, 1 real. I listen, not as a passenger, but as a co-conspirator. He looks at me. You do what you're told. My temper sparks. Then why am I here? To choose, he says, his quiet, not to improvise. I open my mouth. Nicolo cuts me off with a single line that freezes the room. Anyone who talks dies. No shouting. No drama. Just consequence spoken aloud. The guards go still. Even their breathing changes. The building remembers who it belongs to. My pulse spikes, then steadies into something cold. That line isn't for his men. It's for the leak. It's a message in advance. The next day tastes like metal. I sit in the back seat of an unmarked car this time, not armored convoy obvious, not bulletproof comfortable, just quiet and lethal. I wear a dark coat, my hair pinned back, no jewelry, no softness. My belly is still small enough that strangers could pretend it isn't there, but the internet already decided it is. Nicolo is in the front passenger seat, silent. His presence fills the car anyway. His phone is in his hand, screen dark, waiting. 2 vehicles follow at a distance. Another circles ahead. Surveillance feeds stream to a tablet held by a woman in the back with me. Short hair, calm eyes, a radio clipped to her collar, like a second heartbeat. Mara. She doesn't introduce herself. She just exists like competence. I watch the city through clear glass for once. No tint, no hiding. If they want a target, I'll give them one. My mouth is dry. Adrenaline tastes like pennies. We make the first turn. Everything feels normal. That's how traps work. They don't feel like traps until they snap. Mara's eyes move constantly. Mirrors, corners, reflections. She speaks once into her mic, low and flat. 2 behind, holding. Nicolo doesn't respond aloud. His thumb taps once against the phone. My hands rest in my lap, my fingers interlace tight enough to hurt. I force them to loosen. Calm hands, clear mind, a second turn, a third. My pulse starts to settle into rhythm. Then Mara's head tilts. Her gaze goes to the side mirror. 1 beat. 2. Her voice drops, clipped as a blade. Contact. My stomach drops. In the mirror, a car slides into our lane like it belongs there. Dark. Anonymous. My window's too dark. Distance too perfect. A shadow car. Not lost, not accidental. Nicolo's head turns a fraction, his eyes on the mirror. His face doesn't change, but the air in the car does, tightening like a fist. I swallow, my throat burning. The trap worked, and the enemy is taking the bait, straight toward me. Chapter 11. The trap works so well it feels like a betrayal. I sit in the back of the unmarked car with my hands folded like a polite woman on her way to a polite appointment, while every nerve in my body screams that the air is wrong. Mara's voice is still in the cabin, like a blade left on the table. Contact. The shadow car sits behind us, too perfect in distance, too calm in movement, a predator that doesn't hurry because it knows the corridor ends where it wants. Nicolo doesn't turn around. He doesn't look at me to reassure me. He doesn't do reassurance. His phone is in his hand, screen dark, his thumb hovering. He speaks once, low, aimed at Mara's earpiece. Now. Mara answers with a single click into the radio. No emotion, just function. My mouth is dry. Adrenaline tastes like pennies. I watch the side mirror. The shadow car shifts half a lane to the left as if it's searching for an opening. Then, impossibly, another car appears ahead, sliding into the space we're supposed to take. Not a crash, not a staged fender bender this time, just traffic being rewritten. A delivery van pulls out too slowly. A taxi stalls too perfectly at the intersection. A pedestrian steps off the curb like they've forgotten what fear is. My skin prickles. This isn't brute force. This is coordination. Mara leans slightly forward, her eyes flicking between mirrors. We're boxed. Nicolo's voice drops. Break it. The driver signals right. The car starts to turn, and that's when the world turns white. A canister hits the windshield and pops. Not explosion. Release. Smoke blooms fast, thick, chemical. It pours into the vents like someone is pumping poison into our lungs on purpose. The cabin fills in seconds, stinging my eyes, burning my throat. I cough once and force it down because coughing is panic, and panic is slow. Mara's hand snaps to her radio. Gas. Static. Not interference from distance. A clean, immediate deadness. The radio dies like it's been unplugged. My pulse slams. Inside, help. Not a theory, a fact written in silence. The driver swerves, blind. Tires scrape. Metal groans as something kisses the side of the car. Another vehicle nudging us, guiding us, not crashing us. Precision. A gloved hand appears at my door as the locks click, once, twice. Opening from the outside. Impossible. Unless someone gave them the code. The door yanks open. Cold air and smoke and the blur of bodies. I see black masks. Efficient hands. No shouting. No chaos. A voice, calm and bored, says, easy. No bruises. I move anyway. I drive my elbow back hard into ribs I can't see. It lands. A grunt. But the hands on me are already repositioning, already anticipating. One grips my wrist. Another clamps around my upper arm with surgical pressure. Control points, not pain points. They're not here to hurt me. They're here to deliver me intact. My hand flies to my belly. A maskless face appears in my peripheral. Eyes flat, professional. A needle flashes. I twist my wrist just enough to knock it sideways. The needle scrapes my sleeve instead of my skin. The man's eyes narrow, first sign of irritation. Hold her, he says, still calm. Mara lunges in the front seat. I catch a glimpse of her shoulder smashing into someone, her fist swinging. Then a second canister pops near the front, and smoke swallows everything again. I hear Nicolo's voice, one word, sharp enough to cut through chemical fog. Beatrice! Then the world becomes hands in motion and the hard edge of a van floor under my knees. I do not scream. Screaming is for girls who think someone will come because the sound is loud. I have learned, in this world, the loudest thing you can do is survive quietly. A hood drops over my head. Darkness. Fabric, smelling faintly of soap and something floral that doesn't belong in a kidnapping. Even their cruelty has taste. I breathe through my mouth. Slow, controlled. Lists, not panic. My split lip stings where my teeth press against it. Good, pain is real, keeps me awake. The van moves. I count the turns by the pull of gravity. Left, 2 rights. Bridge. I whisper it to myself, barely sound, just breath shaped into direction. Left, 2 rights. Bridge. My fingers search my coat pocket. Cold metal. The keyring Nicolo insisted on, not keys. Mine, a small clip attached, the kind you'd use for a badge. I slide it out between 2 fingers and let it fall quietly onto the van floor near the open seam of the door. A breadcrumb. Then I scrape the inside of my lip with my teeth until fresh blood fills my mouth. I spit once into my palm, dark, warm, and smear it low on the van's interior wall when the men shift, pretending the movement is just me trying to steady myself. Another breadcrumb. Blood is harder to argue with than jewelry. The van hits another turn. Sharp, fast. I listen. 2 men in front. 1 on my left. 1 behind me. I memorize their breathing patterns, the scrape of their boots, the rhythm of their voices. The one behind me taps his ring against metal when he thinks. The one on my left speaks in short bursts, military cadence. Not ordine old men politeness. Operatives. Professionals. This isn't a faction sending boys with guns. This is a machine. The van slows. Stops. Doors open. Cool air hits me through the hood. Night air this time. Damp, carrying the faint scent of wet stone. Hands lift me with care that makes my stomach turn. Watch her stomach, someone says. Practical. Clinical. My hand clamps over my belly again, instinctive and furious. They walk. Footsteps echo differently now. Indoor marble. High ceilings. A space designed to make people feel small. I count anyway. Steps. Turns. A soft rug underfoot. Another corridor. A door that opens with a whisper. Not a creak. They sit me down. A chair, upholstered. Comfortable in a way that feels like mockery. The hood is pulled off. Light stabs my eyes for a beat. Then resolves into a room that looks like money pretending to be art. Cream walls, framed paintings, a low fire burning behind glass, flowers arranged with obsessive precision, floral scent, overwrought. I blink once and lift my chin. Across from me, a woman sits with a teacup in her hand like it's a normal afternoon. Hair pinned perfectly, suit tailored like a weapon, no visible jewelry except a thin gold chain at her throat, subtle enough to be a threat. Her smile is small, controlled, charity offered by someone who enjoys denying it. She sets the cup down with delicate care. Then she speaks. Beatrice Scafidi, she says as if tasting each syllable. Finally. I keep my voice steady even as my heart slams against my ribs. If you wanted to meet me, you could have asked. The woman's smile widens by 0.5 millimeter, amused. We did. Repeatedly. My lip burns. I refuse to touch it. Who are you, I ask. The woman tilts her head, considering the question like it's a compliment. A custodian of balance. The Ordine's favorite word. My stomach turns. She gestures to the chair opposite her. Polite invitation, not permission. Sit comfortably. You're carrying something precious. I don't move. I'm already sitting. A soft laugh. Good. I prefer women who don't pretend to be delicate. My hands curl into fists in my lap. My nails bite crescents into my skin. What do you want? I demand. The woman's eyes drop briefly to my belly. The look is not maternal. It's appraisal. Currency recognition. Then her gaze returns to my face with the same smile still in place. A choice, she says. My mouth goes dry. Choice. Yes, she folds her hands. Perfect nails, no trembling. We offer you peace, status, protection, a name that cannot be challenged. My throat tightens. A cage. The woman doesn't deny it. She just reframes it. A throne. I let out one breath through my nose, slow and controlled. And Nicolo. The smile turns colder, still polite. Nicolo Amato is inconvenient. My eyes sharpen. You mean he won't kneel? I mean, the woman says softly, he believes love is ownership and violence. My lip tugs, with a bitter almost laugh. So do you. The woman's gaze holds, steady, amused. I'm not offended by accuracy. She stands and walks around the room with unhurried grace, as if I'm not a hostage but a guest. She stops behind my chair, not close enough to touch, close enough to dominate the air. Her voice lowers into something intimate and cruel. Choose us, she murmurs, and your child lives in peace. My spine goes rigid. The woman leans closer, her floral perfume blooming like a threat. Then she delivers the real knife, clean and final. Choose us, or we cut him out of your child's future. My breath catches. Not because I believe Nicolo can be cut out, but because I understand what they mean. They will rewrite the world until Nicolo is irrelevant, or dead in every way that matters. I turn my head slightly, meeting the woman's eyes over my shoulder. Fear is there. So is something else. A calm, hard list forming behind my eyes. Names, voices, turns, smells, rings tapping, radios that died too cleanly, breadcrumbs. My voice comes out quiet, dangerous. And if I don't choose? The woman's smile returns, gentle as a blade's edge. Then we stop asking. Chapter 12. The room is beautiful enough to make violence feel polite. I sit in the chair they chose for me. Upholstered, comfortable, expensive. Like comfort can rewrite the fact that my wrists still remember hands closing around them. My lip tastes metallic where I bit it earlier. The faint smear of blood is gone from my mouth, wiped away by an attendant with soft gloves, as if they're cleaning a sculpture before sale. The leader stands near a low table laid out with paper and porcelain. A teapot steams. The fire behind glass glows like it's trying to convince the room it's warm. Nothing here is warm. She pours tea with the calm of someone who believes time belongs to her. Nicolo will come, I say. It isn't a plea. It's a fact, dropped like a coin on a table, meant to ring. Her smile doesn't change. Of course. She hands the cup to an attendant who sets it down near my reach, as if she's offering hospitality, not containment. I don't touch it. What do you want? I ask again, because repeating the question is its own refusal. Say it without perfume. Her eyes glint with amusement. You think this is about you? I lift my chin. You kidnapped me. We relocated an asset, she corrects, her voice gentle as a blade edge, to prevent chaos. My stomach clenches, my hand moves toward my belly instinctively, then stops. I force it down to my lap. I will not be made readable for their pleasure. She gestures to the papers on the table. Not contracts this time. Maps, borders, names written in careful ink, ports, districts, routes, a network, a body. I recognize the shape immediately. Nicolo's ledger had taught me to see cities as systems that bleed. This, she says, tapping a map with one elegant finger, is why tradition exists. I don't blink. Tradition is what men call their appetites when they want to sound holy. A soft laugh. Better. You're learning. She slides one map closer. A red line cuts through it, an artery between territories. Your child ends wars, she says, calmly. I feel nausea roll through me, not from morning sickness, from disgust, from how casual the sentence is. Like she's describing weather, she continues unhurried. One birth changes succession. One legitimate claim changes who pays tribute, who controls shipping, who decides which families keep breathing. She looks at me as if she's explaining arithmetic. An heir is not a baby to us. An heir is leverage. My nails bite crescents into my palm. My child is not your treaty. Her gaze drops to my hands, then back to my face. You can name it whatever makes you feel human. I lean forward slightly, my voice quiet and sharp. I am human. Her smile turns indulgent. Yes, that's why we require your consent. I laugh once, short, bitter. Consent? You drugged my convoy and put a hood over my head. We removed you from a violent man, she says smoothly, and offered you peace. Peace that locks from the outside, I snap. Her tone stays polite. Peace that comes with a crown. My heartbeat hammers, but my voice stays steady. Say the real part. She steps closer to the table and picks up a thin folder. Not the marriage contract, an addendum, a pretty envelope with a seal. You choose us, she says, publicly, legally. You make your child legitimate under our banner. We protect you. We protect the line. And Nicolo? I ask, even though I already know. Her eyes soften in mock sympathy. History. The word lands cold. My stomach tightens. I force breath into my lungs anyway. No, I say simply. Her brows lift slightly. No? I rise. The chair legs scrape against the floor, loud in a room designed to swallow discomfort. My knees wobble. Fear, adrenaline, the body's betrayal. I make them still. I stand tall anyway. My child is not your currency, I say. Not your treaty, not your crown. For the first time, her smile thins. Not anger. Interest. Then you misunderstand what a body is for, she says softly. My blood turns to ice. Try me. She watches me a beat longer than necessary. Then she turns her head toward the door and says one word. Quiet. Surgical. Doctor. My spine prickles. The door opens with a whisper. A man enters in a white coat that looks too clean for a place like this. Gloves already on, a case in his hand, metal clasps. An attendant follows carrying a tray covered in a sterile cloth. The smell hits me before I see anything else. Alcohol. Disinfectant. Sterile and sharp, like a hospital trying to pretend it isn't a slaughterhouse. The doctor doesn't look at me like a person. He looks at me like a schedule. Her voice stays calm. She's refusing. The doctor nods once, clinical. Then we proceed with contingency. My throat tightens. Contingency. She turns back to me, her eyes bright with controlled cruelty. We can take what we want. The words land heavier than a gunshot because they are spoken like policy. The doctor sets the case on the table and flips it open. Inside, instruments packaged and gleaming under the light. Not a surgeon's theater, not yet, but the intention is unmistakable. My stomach drops. My hand flies to my belly this time and stays there, protective and furious. She steps closer, slow as a predator that knows it has time. Early extraction is unpleasant, she says, conversational, as if discussing a bitter tea, but it solves a refusal. My breath stutters, then steadies. Steel doesn't scream. Steel holds. You'd cut me, I whisper. She tilts her head. You're thinking like a romantic, like pain is the point. Her smile returns, small and serene. The point is the air. My voice goes low. Nicolo will burn you. Her eyes glitter, and we will call him irrational, dangerous, unfit. She gestures lightly toward the maps. A woman choosing stability over a violent man plays well to the world. My jaw clenches. So you need me to choose you, not force. Force makes martyrs, she says. Choice makes legitimacy. The doctor shifts, waiting. The instruments wait with him. My pulse roars in my ears. I taste blood again where I press my teeth into my lip. Not enough to drip, enough to remind myself I can still make decisions in a room built to deny them. She reaches out. Not fast, not rough. 2 fingers touch my abdomen through my clothes with chilling gentleness, as if she's petting a valuable animal. I go utterly still. Her voice is soft now, intimate, almost kind. Vessels don't get opinions. The sentence hits like a blade finding a soft place. My breath catches, and then something deeper rises up beneath the fear. Not courage, not rage. Primal ownership. I cover her hand with my own, not pushing it away, pinning it there, forcing her to feel the heat of my body, the tremor I refuse to hide. My voice comes out quiet and razor clean. I'm not your vessel, I say. And this isn't your line. Her smile flickers. For the first time, a crack, tiny, but real. Then she withdraws her hand slowly, as if choosing restraint is a gift. She looks at the doctor. Prepare, she says. I stand there with my palms still on my belly, my heart steadying into a cold, focused beat, because now I know the truth. They won't kill me. They'll keep me alive long enough to use me. And if I want my child to survive as mine, I can't wait for rescue. I have to become impossible to own. Chapter 13. Nicolo doesn't negotiate with men who put hands on what's his. He removes their hands. The war begins in silence. No gunshots, no screaming, just numbers dying. A room beneath his building glows with monitors and maps and account ledgers that aren't paper anymore, but live arteries pulsing across screens. Men stand in a half circle around Nicolo, waiting for permission to breathe. He gives them orders instead. Choke them, he says. 2 words. A sentence that becomes a citywide seizure. Phones buzz immediately. Captains, bankers, port authorities bought long ago, auditors who owe their mortgages to the Amato name, lines of credit collapse. Shipping manifests disappear. Accounts freeze mid-transfer like a throat closing on air. A man at the far screen swallows. Their front in Trastevere just... Nicolo doesn't look at him. All of them. Another voice, careful. They'll move cash. Nicolo's gaze lifts, flat, surgical. Let them run. Running leaves tracks. His thumb rubs once along the edge of his watch, as if he's measuring time like a weapon. On the screen, a chain of shell companies lights up like a nervous system. Then the lights go dark one by one. The Ordini's oxygen is not blood. It's money. Nicolo cuts it first. Across the city, men in suits walk into restaurants and galleries and charitable foundations that were never charities, only laundering machines dressed in velvet and good manners. A door is locked. A warrant is produced that isn't legal, but is obeyed anyway. A safe is opened. Documents vanish into black cases. A priest's donor list burns in a steel drum behind a church that smells like incense and rot. Somewhere a shipment of wine is stopped at the port. Not stopped loudly, just never allowed to arrive. The same quiet cruelty repeats, the kind that doesn't make headlines until people start choking. In an Ordini-controlled office, a man slams his phone down, his face whitening. They're freezing everything, he says. A second man paces, hands shaking. He can't do this. The first man laughs high and thin. He's doing it. A third voice, a whisper from the corner like a rat speaking truth. He won't stop. I watched the panic ripple through their network, the way a fisherman watches the line tighten. Then Nicolo moves to the second phase, the part that makes men remember they are mortal. Rain falls that night, cold and steady, turning streets into mirrors. The city reflects neon and headlights and the brief flashes of violence people pretend they don't see. A black car glides to the curb outside an Ordine-linked club that isn't a club, just a meeting place where men buy futures. The doorman recognizes the wrong kind of suit and starts to back away. He doesn't get far. Inside, music plays too loud, trying to drown out fear. It fails. A lieutenant, one of the Ordini's local hands, the kind who thinks he's untouchable because his orders come from tradition, steps into a private hallway and finds Nicolo waiting at the end of it. No entourage, no speech, just Nicolo Amato, in a dark coat, his face calm, his eyes dead with purpose. The lieutenant's mouth opens. "Amato!" Nicolo raises one hand. "Enough," he says. The word shuts the hallway down like a power cut. The lieutenant swallows. "This doesn't have to." Nicolo steps closer. Quiet shoes on carpet. Predatory patience. "This is what touching her buys you," Nicolo says. Not a threat. A receipt. The lieutenant's eyes widen. "I didn't touch." Nicolo's gaze doesn't change. "You serve the hand." A muffled gunshot blooms behind a closed door. No scream follows. Rain keeps falling. When the black car pulls away, a body is left in a service alley under a flickering light. Placed, not dumped. A message in flesh and gravity. Men who find it later don't call the police. They call their patrons. They call the Ordine. And their voices crack. In the enemy's elegant building, the air shifts. The leader's attendants move faster. Their smiles become tighter. Their calm becomes effort. A phone rings, then another. A man enters the leader's room with eyes too wide for a trained operative. He speaks softly, like loudness might summon death. "He's hitting the fronts," he says. "All of them. Accounts, ports, offices." The leader's teacup pauses mid-lift for the first time. "Lieutenants?" she asks, still polite. The man's throat bobs. Gone. A small silence. Then behind it, the first honest note of fear. "He won't stop," the man whispers. The leader sets the cup down with delicate control. Her smile returns, slower, colder. "Of course he won't," she says. She looks toward the door where I'm held elsewhere, and for the first time, her charity smile looks strained. Because now she's not dealing with a man who can be reasoned with. She's dealing with a man who will burn the idea of reason to keep what's his. Back in Nicolo's war room, a phone is placed on the table in front of him. A location pings. A voice note from one of his captains. "We have one of theirs." Nicolo doesn't ask questions. He stands. When he walks into the interrogation room, the air goes damp with concrete and fear again. A man sits tied to a chair. Ordine operative. Clean hands. Disciplined posture. Not the kind who begs quickly. Nicolo stops in front of him and says one word. "Speak." The man's jaw clenches. "You're already too late." Nicolo's eyes flicker. Cold interest, not panic. "You think time is yours." Nicolo says, "It isn't." He leans in just enough for the man to smell him. Rain, gun oil, inevitability. Then Nicolo straightens and turns away as if the man is already solved. He lifts his phone and records a message. No face, no theatrics, just voice. Quiet, lethal calm, delivered like law. "This is Nicolo Amato," he says. The room is silent enough that the words feel carved into stone. "If she bleeds," Nicolo continues, "your bloodline ends." He stops recording. No add-ons, no flourish. Certainty is the flourish. He sends it. Somewhere, phones light up in pockets and handbags and clean offices that smell like old money. Men listen. And suddenly, their concept of tradition feels fragile. Near midnight, Nicolo receives a package. Not delivered by courier. Brought by one of his captains who doesn't meet his eyes. A black bag. Heavy. Nicolo doesn't ask what's inside. He knows. He unzips it on the table. A severed chain of consequence. One of the men who touched the plan, who helped move me from car to van, now returned to the world in the simplest language Nicolo speaks. Death as punctuation. Nicolo pulls a card from his pocket and writes on it with steady hands. 2 words, try again. He places it inside the bag, zips it shut, and hands it back. "Send it," he says. "To them?" the captain asks, his throat tight. Nicolo's gaze lifts, flat as a blade. "To whoever thinks they can keep breathing after this." The captain nods and leaves. Nicolo stands alone for a beat in the humming room of screens and numbers and war. His phone remains dark. No call from me. No proof I'm safe. Only the certainty that I'm alive because I'm not allowed to be anything else. Nicolo turns back to the monitors. "Next," he says, and the city holds its breath. Chapter 14, I don't ask for permission anymore. I give consequences. The door doesn't open. It disappears. One moment I'm breathing sterile air that tastes like disinfectant and threat, listening to the soft clink of instruments in a case, watching the enemy leader's smile hold steady, and the next, the wall becomes noise. Gunfire muffled by expensive soundproofing, glass shattering behind art, men shouting in short, clipped bursts that aren't panic. Commands. The elegant room jerks out of its illusion and shows its skeleton. An attendant stumbles backward, eyes wide. The leader doesn't scream, she doesn't run, she turns her head toward the doorway like she expected the world to interrupt her tea. My pulse slams, then steadies into something cold. A corridor beyond the door blooms with smoke and movement. Black suits, flashing muzzle light, bodies falling fast. Nicolo Amato appears in the doorway like a verdict taking shape. No tie, dark coat, a gun in his hand, and the kind of calm that means he already decided who dies. His eyes find me instantly, through smoke, through chaos, through the enemy's polite violence. He doesn't look at the leader. He looks at me. Behind me, he says. My breath catches. Not because I need saving, because the command is the same one that always tries to turn me into a thing carried. A guard lunges from my left, fast, trained, baton raised to strike me down and keep me quiet. I move before anyone reaches me. I take one step into the guard's space, grab his wrist with both hands, and drive my knee up hard into his thigh, right above the kneecap. The guard buckles with a choked sound. I rip the baton out of his hand and slam it into his throat. Not gentle, not lethal, efficient. The guard collapses, gagging, clawing at his neck. Nicolo is already moving, shooting once, clean, dropping the next man who enters the room. I turn toward him, baton still in my hand, my chest heaving. Behind me, Nicolo repeats, his voice quieter, sharper. I meet his eyes. No, I say, beside you. For a beat, the world compresses into that line. The war outside, the war inside us, the thin space where my autonomy has been bleeding. Nicolo's jaw tightens once. Then he steps half a pace to the side, not yielding, allowing. Stay, he says. I don't argue the word. I make it true by moving with him, not behind him. We exit the room in a rush of gun smoke and hard orders. Mara's voice snaps over a radio somewhere, tight, tactical. Hall clear. I catch flashes. Men in white coats pressed to the wall with their hands up, a tray of instruments tipped, metal clattering across marble, an attendant sobbing quietly into gloved hands. The enemy leader stands near the fire, still composed, her eyes on me like she's watching a chess piece refuse to follow its square. Beatrice, the leader calls softly, smiling like charity. This is irrational. I don't look back. I have learned something important about monsters. Looking at them is an invitation. Nicolo doesn't speak to the leader either. He fires once into a ceiling camera as we pass, a small act, a message. Then he's pushing through a reinforced door into a stairwell that smells like concrete and damp air, real air, not perfumed. My lungs burn, my palms sweat around the baton, my stomach tightens, protective. Nicolo's hand finds the small of my back, not romantic, a guide, a lock. He steers me down the stairs fast, men following, footsteps pounding like a heartbeat outside my body. A van door yawns open in the underground garage. I climb in without being lifted, without being carried. Nicolo follows and shuts the door himself. The city's noise becomes muted. For one beat, in the dark interior, I hear only my own breath and the hard, controlled breath of the man beside me. Nicolo's gaze flicks to my mouth, then to my belly, then to my eyes. Are you bleeding? He asks. My lip stings. My throat is raw. I swallow and shake my head. No. His jaw clenches. He doesn't touch me. He doesn't comfort. He simply sits closer, making the van smaller, making the world outside less able to reach me. The vehicle moves, and I realize I'm not relieved. Relief is soft. What I feel is anger that survived captivity. Anger that followed me out. The safe house is not the apartment. It's lower, quieter, built for disappearing. Concrete, steel, no windows to tempt a sniper. The air smells like bleach and gun oil, cleaning after violence, preparing for more. I walk in on my own feet. A guard offers a towel. I take it without thanks. My hands shake only when no one is looking. I go straight to the bathroom and turn the shower on full hot. Steam fills the small space fast, fogging the mirror, blurring the person I used to be. I strip my clothes off and see what the enemy's no bruises promise really meant. There are bruises, just placed where cameras wouldn't catch them. Fingerprint dark marks on my upper arms. A faint bruise at my hip from being lifted and guided like cargo. Red abrasions at my wrists, where a grip held tight without leaving rope burn. I step under the water and let it hit me like punishment. The heat stings. The water makes the bruises bloom darker. My lip throbs. I do not cry. Crying would be a surrender to the version of myself they wanted. Weak, grateful, pliable. I press a palm to my belly and breathe once. Salive. Still mine. When I step out, wrapped in a towel, my hair damp, my skin flushed, my face in the mirror looks different. Not pretty, Sharp. Nicolo is outside the bathroom door, waiting without pacing. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. He watches me like he's checking whether the world still contains me. I meet his gaze. Bring my father, I say. Nicolo's eyes harden. Bring my sister, I add. No tremor, no softness. Nicolo holds my stare for a long beat, then he nods once. A verdict. Now, he says into his phone. They come an hour later, under guard, no calls, no warning, no chance to dress their lies in nice clothing. My father is first, his suit rumpled, his hair disheveled, his face pale with the kind of fear that comes when your protection money stops working. My sister follows, eyes red, mouth tight, trying to look offended like offense can save her. I stand at the end of the room in plain clothes Nicolo provided. Soft fabric, no brand, no statement except the one my posture makes. I am not sitting. I will not be below them again. Nicolo stands behind me, silent as a weapon on a table. Present. Watching. My father sees me and his face breaks into relief so fast it's almost funny. Beatrice, thank God, he starts. I cut him with one look. Don't. He stops mid-syllable. My sister's eyes flick to Nicolo behind me and widen. Then she forces them back to me, as if pretending Nicolo is a rumor will make him less real. We didn't know, my sister blurts. We didn't know where you were. My mouth twitches. Not a smile. A warning. You knew what you were doing, I say. My father's hands lift, palms out, the old gesture of negotiation. I had no choice. My chin lifts, my voice stays steady. You did. You chose me. My father's face tightens, the truth landing too close to his ribs. I chose survival. You chose your own, I correct. My sister steps forward half a pace before the guard blocks her. B. She begins, her voice cracking. Please, you're acting like... Like what? I ask softly. She swallows, eyes glossy. Like you want to punish us. I look at my sister for a long beat, seeing the girl I used to share secrets with, and the woman who learned to survive by standing beside the strongest man in the room. I don't want to punish you, I say. I want you to understand what you bought with my life. My father's voice turns frantic. You're alive. You're safe. We can... Safe, I repeat, tasting the word like poison. I had a knife at my stomach, a doctor's instruments on a table. They called me a vessel. My sister makes a small sound, horror maybe, or performance. My father's face hardens into the only language he truly speaks. Avoidance. We can fix this, he insists. We can negotiate. No. One word. A verdict I learned from Nicolo and made my own. My father's breathing turns fast. Beatrice, be reasonable. I lift my hand. The room falls silent. Even Nicolo's men go still, because something in my tone says queen now. You sold me, I say to my father. Twice. I was trying to. You were trying to save your name, I cut in, and you used mine as payment. My father's mouth opens, closes. My sister whispers, we're family. I look at my sister again. Family doesn't make offers on speakerphone. She flinches. Good. I turn my attention back to my father. This is what will happen, I say, my voice calm enough to be terrifying. You will sign everything over, every Scafidi holding, every account, every property. You will transfer it into a trust in my child's name. My father's eyes widen. No, I don't blink. Yes, he sputters. That's everything. That's the point, I say. My sister's face crumples. You can't. My gaze snaps to her. Watch me. I turn back to my father. After you sign, you will be stripped publicly. Your friends will know you tried to trade your pregnant daughter to an old world faction. Your banks will close. Your favors will end. You will live long enough to remember you are small. My father shakes his head violently. You'll destroy us. My voice doesn't change. Bet you destroyed me first. Silence. Then my sister's voice, brittle, pleading. Beatrice, please, Dad made mistakes. My eyes narrow. So did you. Her lips part, stunned. What did I do? You didn't stop him, I say. You stood there and watched me be spent. My sister starts to cry. Real or not, the sound is thin. I don't flinch. I turn slightly, just enough to look at Nicolo over my shoulder, not asking for permission, giving an order. Do it, I say. Nicolo's gaze holds mine. No softness, just recognition of what I've become. He nods once, then he steps forward. To my father, he says one word. Sign. My father's knees look like they want to fail him. Nicolo, please. Nicolo doesn't react to the plea. He doesn't even look at it. He gestures. A guard places a folder and a pen on the table. Another guard places a phone with a camera, ready because I asked for public stripping, because consequences are part of the punishment. My father looks at me as if searching for the daughter he used to control. He finds only a woman with a hand on her belly and eyes like locked doors. He reaches for the pen with shaking fingers. Signs. I watch every stroke. My sister sobs quietly. When my father finishes, Nicolo takes the folder, checks it once, and hands it to a man who disappears with it immediately. Nicolo turns back to my father. Stand, he says. My father stands, trembling. Nicolo's voice is flat. You leave with nothing. My father's face twists. Beatrice, I interrupt, calm. This is closure. Nicolo lifts his hand and gives a small signal. 2 guards take my father by the arms, not gentle, not rough, functional. My father tries once more, his voice breaking. I did it for you. My voice goes ice. You did it to me. They drag him toward the door. My sister lunges half a step and is stopped. Beatrice, she cries. I look at my sister one last time. Go home, I say, and live with the truth. She shakes her head, sobbing. I don't have anywhere. My stare is steady. Neither did I. Nicolo watches my father disappear, then he looks back at me. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. He waits, to see if I flinch, to see if I regret it, to see if the queen breaks. My throat tightens, my hand presses to my belly, my breath trembles then steadies. No, I say quietly. Nicolo's eyes hold mine a beat longer. Then he nods, one small motion that feels like devotion sealing into something darker than love. Outside, the war isn't over, but inside my chest, something has been crowned in blood. Chapter 15. The Ordine dies the way it lived, quietly, behind velvet curtains, convinced no one would drag it into daylight. Nicolo drags it anyway. The final meeting isn't in a church or a villa or a hall lined with saints. It's in a warehouse near the river where money changes hands and men pretend their sins are business. The air smells like wet steel and engine oil. Rain ticks against corrugated metal like a countdown. I'm not there. That's the point. This is not a negotiation staged for my eyes. This is a removal. Nicolo stands at the edge of the shadowed space with 3 men behind him and a folder in his hand, thick, sealed, stamped with the same thorn-crown crest that dared to call me a vessel. Across the concrete, the Ordine's local leadership waits. 5 figures in tailored coats, faces carved from old entitlement. One woman sits slightly apart, her gloved hands folded, her posture elegant as cruelty. The leader. She smiles like a host welcoming a guest. Amato, she says, you've made such noise. Nicolo doesn't return the greeting. He lifts the folder and drops it onto the table between them. The sound is heavy, final. Inside it, their claim, their tradition, their paper god. The leader's eyes flick to the crest. You came to bargain. Nicolo's gaze stays flat. No. A man beside the leader, older, rings heavy on his fingers, leans forward. We can end this. We can restore balance. The mother will... Nicolo interrupts with one word. Stop. Silence hits like a muzzle pressed to a mouth. Nicolo opens the folder. He doesn't show them numbers. He shows them names, signatures, witnesses. A chain of legitimacy. The thing they built to bind me and erase him. He slides a document forward and sets a lighter beside it. The leader's smile falters by a millimeter. That's sacred. Nicolo's voice doesn't rise. It's paper. He strikes the lighter. Flame blooms small and bright. Too simple for what it means. No claim survives me, Nicolo says. Then he sets the corner of the document on fire. The flame crawls fast, hungry, turning ink into ash. The paper curls, blackens, collapses. A man lunges forward, panic breaking his manners. You can't! Nicolo shoots him in the throat. One clean shot. The man drops, his hands clutching blood that won't stay inside him, his eyes wide with the surprise of mortality. The leader's smile is gone now. Nicolo steps closer. Gun still low, smoke drifting from the barrel like a sigh. You touched my house, he says. You touched my child. The leader regains her composure like it's a dress she refuses to wrinkle. We offered her peace. You offered her a cage, Nicolo corrects. Behind the leader, one of her men moves, his hand toward his jacket. Mara's bullet from the shadows takes him through the forehead before his fingers reach fabric. He collapses without ceremony. Nicolo doesn't look away from the leader. You use tradition as a knife, he says. Now you learn what knives do. He gestures once. 2 of his men move like machinery, fast, precise, seizing the remaining lieutenants, disarming them, forcing them to their knees. No shouting, no speeches, only the sounds of bodies realizing they are not in control. The leader's voice turns colder. If you kill us, you create martyrs. Nicolo's eyes remain dead calm. No. He lifts the folder, what's left of it, and shakes out the remaining papers onto the table. Then he pours a small bag of black dust over them. Accelerant. He lights it. The flame jumps high, devouring the claim, devouring the witness list, devouring the fiction that a crown can be inherited by force. The leader watches her tradition burn, and the first real emotion crosses her face, fear. Nicolo leans in just enough for her to hear him over the crackle. You wanted legitimacy, he says. Here's what you get. He nods once. A gunshot from behind her. Not into her, into the steel support chain holding a heavy hook above the table. The hook drops with a metallic scream and slams down, crushing the burning papers into a smear of ash and ruined wax and splintered wood. A messy end for a neat idea. Then Nicolo shoots the leader. Center mass. 2 shots. Efficient. No drama. She falls back, breath leaving her body in a wet rush. Her elegant hands twitching once as if trying to hold on to the illusion. Nicolo steps over the spilled tea she never got to pour. He looks at the men on their knees. Leave, he says to the only one still breathing who might run. Tell whoever remains. The man trembles. Tell them what? Nicolo's voice is quiet enough to be a law. That she was mine, he says, and that you die for forgetting. The man stumbles backward and runs. Nicolo turns away from the burning table, away from the bodies, away from the last breath of a faction that treated heirs like currency. He doesn't look satisfied. He looks finished, and then, only then does he go back to the only war that matters. The safe house is silent when he returns. Not peaceful. Waiting. I'm in the living room, standing at the window that isn't really a window, reinforced glass set into concrete like an apology. The city beyond is far, lights blurred by rain. My bruises have darkened, fingerprints on my arms, a faint mark at my wrist, proof of the hands that tried to claim me. My palm rests on my belly, not fragile, claiming. Nicolo steps in behind me without speaking. I don't turn right away. I listen to his breathing, steady, controlled. There is blood on his cuff again, darker than rain. When I finally turn, my eyes find his and lock. Is it done? I ask. Nicolo answers with a single nod. Yes. My throat tightens. Not relief, not gratitude. Closure with teeth. And their claim? I press. Nicolo's gaze holds. Burned. I exhale once, slow. Then I step closer, close enough to smell him. Gun oil, rain, and that cold restraint that has always been his version of love. My voice is quiet, lethal with precision. Good, I say. Nicolo's eyes narrow. You're not afraid. I let out a small, humorless laugh. I'm terrified. I'm just not controlled by it anymore. Silence sits between us, heavy with all the ways he's tried to keep me alive by making me smaller. I lift my chin. This is the part where we change, I say. Nicolo's jaw tightens once. We already did. No, I correct. You did war, I did survival, now we do truth. His gaze sharpens. Say it. I don't flinch. Protect me, I say. Don't erase me. The line lands like a blade under his ribs because it's the only place he's vulnerable. Nicolo stares at me for a long beat. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't soften. He does what he always does when he believes something. He acts. Come, Nicolo says. One word. An imperative. I follow anyway, not because I'm obedient, because I chose this path and I refuse to be left behind in it. He takes me downstairs, not to the war room, not to the range, but to the conference space where captains and accountants and security chiefs gather when a new order is about to be written into the city. The table is long. The men around it are hard-eyed, cautious, disciplined. They rise when Nicolo enters. Then they freeze because I enter with him, not behind him, beside him. Nicolo doesn't introduce me like a girlfriend. He introduces me like power. This is Beatrice Amato, he says. A ripple goes through the room. Shock, calculation, instant obedience. My spine stays straight. My hand stays on my belly. One captain's eyes flick to my ring finger, empty, then to Nicolo's face. No one dares ask. Nicolo places a set of keys on the table in front of me. Not symbolic keys, real ones. A master fob, a safe code, a black card that opens doors men pretend don't exist. He sets them down like a verdict. If you stand with me, Nicolo says, his voice low and absolute, you stand above them. He looks around the table. From today, he continues, her word is mine. A man swallows. Another nods quickly. I feel it. Fear in the room, not toward Nicolo now, but toward the idea of touching what has been publicly elevated, untouchable by law of fear. Nicolo slides a folder to me, thinner than the ledger, but heavier in meaning. Inside, signatures. Public filings, trust structures, legal shields built with the same brutality he uses for war. I understand immediately. This is Nicolo adapting the only way he knows, not with softness, with architecture. He turns to the head of security. You answer to her, Nicolo says. The man nods once. Yes. I look at Nicolo, heat and fury and something darker threading through my chest. You're doing this because I asked, I say. Nicolo's gaze locks on mine. I'm doing this because you're right. 2 truths in 1 sentence. It's the closest thing to surrender he will ever give. Night settles over the city like velvet. I stand on the safe house balcony, small, reinforced, overlooking a stretch of lights that looks almost peaceful from this height. My hand rests on my belly. The bruises on my arms are fading into yellow at the edges, like my body is already turning pain into history. Behind me, guards stand at attention. Not for Nicolo alone. For me, too. Nicolo steps up beside me, close enough that his presence becomes a wall. He doesn't touch me at first. He simply stands there, matching my gaze on the city that tried to turn me into a weakness. I speak without looking at him. They'll try again, I say. Nicolo's answer is instant, quiet, certain. Let them. I turn my head slightly, my eyes on him now. You'll bury all of them. Nicolo's mouth doesn't move into a smile. His eyes don't soften. He believes in one vow. He steps in closer, his voice low enough to feel like a brand on my skin. Anyone who comes for you, Nicolo says, dies first. My breath trembles once, then steadies. I face the city again, my hand on my belly, my chin lifted, my eyes up. Not trapped, crowned. And the night, for the first time since the leak, the feels less like a cage and more like a kingdom learning my name. Epilogue. The first time Nicolo Amato laughs, the house goes silent like it doesn't recognize the sound. It isn't a big laugh. It isn't warm. It's a single, sharp exhale, surprise cutting through control, because the child on the rug in front of him just looked up and said with absolute authority, no. I pause in the doorway with a mug of coffee that's gone cold in my hands, watching the scene like I'm watching a myth rewrite itself. Our son is 5. 5 years of headlines that tried to eat us. 5 years of men who learned the hard way that my name is not a bargaining chip anymore. 5 years of Nicolo's city learning to bow to a woman who doesn't flinch and a man who doesn't forgive. 5 years of peace that only exists because violence has a long memory. My boy sits cross-legged on the rug with a toy car in one hand and a small training knife in the other. Rubber, blunted, the kind Nicolo allows, because Nicolo doesn't believe in lies. His dark curls are a mess. His eyes are Nicolo's, storm glass, too serious for a child, until they flick to me and brighten in a way that feels like sunlight breaking into a room that doesn't deserve it. Mama, he says, as if the word is a claim. I cross the room and kiss the top of his head. He smells like soap and oranges and rebellion. Nicolo is at the low table, sleeves rolled, cuffs clean, for once. His watch catches the light when he moves, and I still remember the first time I learned what that watch meant. Calculation, consequence, the quiet geometry of survival. Now he's using that same precision to teach a child how to live. Again, Nicolo says. My son huffs, dramatic, offended, a small actor in a world that rewards control. I already did it. Nicolo doesn't blink. Wrong. The boy's brows knit together. I wasn't wrong. I bite the inside of my cheek, hiding a smile. My son has inherited both of us, Nicolo's stubborn certainty and my refusal to be handled. Nicolo reaches across the table and gently turns the child's wrist, adjusting the grip on the rubber knife with 2 fingers. The touch is absurdly careful, like the world might break if he's too rough. Your thumb, Nicolo says. Here. The boy squints at his own hand like it's betrayed him. Nicolo leans closer, voice low. Not soft. Never soft. But the brutality is missing, shaped into something else. You don't survive by being good, Nicolo says. My coffee tilts in my hands. That line used to be a sentence Nicolo delivered to sharpen me into a weapon. Now he's giving it to our child like a family heirloom. The boy repeats it, mangling the cadence, trying to make it sound grown. You don't survive by being good. Good is not a strategy, Nicolo says. My son's face pinches in confusion, but Mama says be kind. I step closer, leaning my hip against the table. I say be kind to people who deserve it. The boy looks between us, his mind working like a little machine learning rules. Nicolo slides a small stack of cards across the table, simple rectangles of paper with symbols drawn on them. Exits, doors, corners, a crown with thorns, a dot, a line. I recognize them instantly. Funnels, throats, rooms that kill you if you trust them. Nicolo taps one card with a single knuckle. You go into a room. What do you do first? The boy's shoulders lift, then settle. He puts the toy card down like he's taking this seriously now. Like he feels the weight in the question. He points. I look for the door. Nicolo's eyes narrow. How many? All of them, the boy blurts, offended that Nicolo would test him on something obvious. I look for all the doors and the windows. My chest tightens with a strange hot ache, pride, fear, love that feels like a weapon. Nicolo nods once. Good. The boy's mouth curls up. Victory. I watch Nicolo watch him. The way Nicolo's gaze lingers a fraction too long, like he's trying to memorize something that could be taken. The way his jaw tightens and releases when the boy laughs. The way his hand hovers near the child's shoulder without touching, as if touch would admit softness out loud. Nicolo doesn't say I love you. He never has. But he has built an entire world around the word. The boy points at the thorn crown symbol on the card. What's that one? My spine goes cold, an old reflex. The crown with thorns used to mean blood channels, sealed letters, a faction that treated bodies like currency. Now it's ink on a card in a safe house that smells like coffee and clean linen. A trophy turned into a lesson. Nicolo takes the card between thumb and forefinger, looks at it for one beat. Then he tears it cleanly in half. The rip is loud. The boy's eyes widen. Papa! Nicolo drops the torn pieces into the trash without ceremony. Dead. The boy stares at the trash, shocked and delighted. Can I tear one? My laugh slips out before I can stop it. I cover it with a cough. Nicolo glances at me, one quick look, and something in his eyes loosens. Not a smile. Not softness, but a crack of something human. One, he says to the boy. My son grabs another card, dramatic as a king, and rips it with all his tiny strength. It tears crooked, messy, perfect. He beams up at Nicolo like he's done something holy. Nicolo reaches out and ruffles his hair once, one brief, awkward touch, like he's learning how to be a father the way he learned how to be a warlord. My throat burns. I swallow it down. The boy sits up straighter. Okay, teach me the next thing. Nicolo slides the remaining cards closer. The next thing is this. He places one card down, a dot in the center of a rectangle. This is you, Nicolo says. The boy nods, serious. Nicolo sets another card beside it. 3 dots near corners, 2 dots near an exit, 1 dot near a table. These are people, Nicolo says. Some are threats, some are allies, one is lying. My mouth twists. You're really doing this. Nicolo doesn't look up. He's mine. My breath catches, not from romance. From the blunt truth of it, the boy peers at the dots, like they're a puzzle. He points at one near a corner. That one's scary. Why? Nicolo asks. The boy shrugs. He's hiding. I watch Nicolo's eyes sharpen. You don't hide where you can't move, Nicolo says, and I feel the echo of the lesson I learned on the marble map years ago. You hide where you can strike. The boy nods like this makes perfect sense, because in his world it does. He points at 2 dots near the exit. Those are the good guys. I lean in. Why? The boy looks offended again. Because they're near the door. They can get us out. Nicolo corrects him without cruelty. Or they can get you out. The boy pauses, thinking. Nicolo taps the card. Say it. My son's voice turns stubborn. They can get us out. My heart kicks. Nicolo goes still for half a beat. I watch his throat move as he swallows something he refuses to name. Then Nicolo nods. Once. A verdict. Correct. The boy grins, triumphant. I reach over and cut my son's cheek with 2 fingers. You're not allowed to get yourself killed saving us, okay? The boy looks at me like I'm ridiculous. I won't die. My smile goes thin. That's not a promise you get to make alone. Nicolo finally looks up. His gaze fixes on the boy with a quiet intensity that used to terrify men twice his size. You are not allowed to die, Nicolo says. The boy blinks, absorbing it like a rule of the universe. Okay. My stomach tightens at the familiar phrase, the memory of Nicolo gripping my jaw, blood on his cuffs, fear strangled into control. I meet Nicolo's eyes over the child's head. Don't do that, I say quietly. Don't put him in a cage. Nicolo doesn't argue. He never argues when I'm right. Instead, he reaches under the table and pulls out something else. A small keyring, not a toy. A real keyring with a plain tag, no crest, no crown, no symbol of power, just metal and function. He sets it in front of my son. The boy's eyes go wide. Is that? Nicolo watches him closely. This opens the safe room. This opens the elevator. This opens the door that makes the city stop. My pulse jumps. This isn't a game, Nicolo adds, voice quiet. This is yours when you can hold it. My son's small fingers hover over the keys like they're holy. My voice cuts in, sharp. He's 5. Nicolo turns his head slightly, his gaze holding mine. He's ours. I step closer, close enough that my shoulder brushes Nicolo's. Electricity, heat, all the old battles still alive between us. Protect him, I say. Don't erase him. Nicolo's jaw tightens once, releases. He doesn't say sorry. He doesn't say love. He moves his hand and places the keyring into my palm instead. Not the boy's. Mine. Then he closes my fingers around it, firm, exact, grounding me like he always has when the world is trying to pull me apart. His voice drops low enough that the child can't hear it. You hold it, Nicolo says, until he's ready. I exhale. It isn't relief. It's a truce, forged in steel. My son looks up, pouting. Why does Mama get it? I smile without softness. Because I'm the boss. The boy frowns like he's thinking about challenging that statement later. Nicolo lifts a brow, a warning to the child, a promise to me. The boy decides not to argue. He grabs the toy car instead and zooms it across the table, crashing it into the dot cards with the enthusiasm of a small storm. I watch him, this child who once lived only as a threat in enemy mouths, a currency in maps, a weapon in headlines. Now he has sticky hands and stubborn no and a laugh that cracked Nicolo's control for a second. I turn to Nicolo. What did you do today, I ask. Nicolo doesn't look away from our son. Finished it. Finished what? He pauses like he's choosing the cleanest possible truth. The last of them, he says. My chest tightens, so it's really over. Nicolo finally looks at me, direct, absolute. It will never be over, he says, but they will never touch you again. I hold his gaze, searching for any trace of softness. I don't find it. I find something better. Certainty, a city built into a shield. A man who doesn't promise heaven, only consequences. Our son crashes the toy car again and laughs, loud this time, unafraid of the sound. Nicolo watches him like he's watching a miracle he doesn't trust. I step closer and thread my fingers through Nicolo's forearm. Not a romantic cling, just contact, just proof. Nicolo's other hand moves without looking and rests on my belly where it still curves faintly from memory, from scars, from survival. His palm is warm, protective, possessive. He doesn't speak, he doesn't have to. I look out at the city beyond the reinforced glass, lights shimmering, rain turning streets into mirrors. Then I look back at the room, at my son with his fierce little heart, at Nicolo, the man who built an empire and then built a family inside it like a secret chapel. My voice is quiet, iron calm. They'll try, I say. Nicolo doesn't blink. Let them, he replies. Our son looks up, serious again, sensing the tone. Who'll try, he asks. I kneel, take his face in my hands and speak with truth sharp enough to keep him alive and gentle enough to keep him human. People who don't understand, I say, that you belong to you. The boy nods solemnly like this is a sacred oath. Nicolo stands, walks to his son, and kneels too, bringing his dangerous body down to the child's level like it costs him something. He looks into those small storm glass eyes. Listen, Nicolo says. The boy stills. Nicolo's voice goes low, lethal calm, his one religion. Anyone who comes for your mother, he says, dies first. My breath catches. My son's eyes widen with awe, not fear. Even if they say sorry, the boy asks. Nicolo's mouth doesn't move. Even then. I let out a small laugh. This time I don't hide it. Our son grins, and for a moment the empire outside feels like background noise, because inside this room a war ended. A crown changed hands, and the future, warm, stubborn, loud, just crashed a toy car into the table like it owned the world. Because it does. If you made it to the end, you've watched Beatrice do the rarest thing in a dark world. She didn't just survive the cage, she learned how to lock it from the outside. And Nicolo? He didn't learn softness. He learned something more dangerous, how to protect without erasing the woman he chose. And if you love dark mafia romance with obsession, betrayal, dangerous men, ruthless protection, and heroines who refuse to disappear, well, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Your likes, comments, and watch time help this channel grow, help these stories reach the right readers, and tell YouTube exactly who needs more dark, scandalous romance in their life. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for supporting my stories. This story was written for you by Bayless Dambra, and if anyone comes for what's ours, they die first. Stay ruined. See you in the next one.